Gordon, Dick, please unmute. But in the meantime, I will
Okay,
I'll give a small.
I'm unmuted. I'm
I'll give
unmuted.
us a short intro. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies, welcome to the Ateneo 57, 61, 65 regular Zoom session. Let's hear from our nation's leaders. Today, we have a special guest, our classmate, Dick Gordon. I think mas maganda tawagan siyang Mayor Dick Gordon.
Not Duterte. And I
Okay?
don't believe in titles. You can call me Dick.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, uh, our classmate Dick doesn't really need any introduction to most of us here present, but let me give just a brief rundown of the highlights of his career. He was the youngest mayor in the 1980s, transforming Olongapo City from a sin city to a model city.
There is a feedback eh.
There's some feedback someplace. We'll try.
That's me, I don't know.
Huh?
Somebody has two gadgets.
Okay, nawala.
Somebody has gadgets on.
Two gadgets.
Okay,
Two
nawala na.
gadgets. Two gadgets.
Nawala na.
So
Okay,
back
good.
before I was mayor, I was the youngest delegate to the CONCON. Just don't forget that.
Yeah, we will. Don't worry. I'll get to that.
No, no, I just want to make sure. I can see your gray hair has affected your memory.
Yeah. Anyway, from mayor, he went on to rising the Subic, handling the massive unemployment when the U.S. naval base, when the U.S. Navy left the naval base after our Senate threw out the U.S. Philippine agreement, and that was I remember that because we were there with you at that time, and you brought in without any law, you made sure Subic became a free port to your efforts and brought in over $5 billion in investment from over 200 companies.
This meeting is being recorded.
Gentlemen, forgive the technical issues that we're trying to solve the feedback. I don't know, bakit pag ikaw ang guest may problema, ang iba wala?
No, may ayaw salitayan.
Kasi madaming interested, kaya madaming siguro gusto magsabi ng ano na. Anyway, Subic, you went on to become the Department of Tourism Secretary and turn around the tourism industry with your Wow Philippines campaign.
Oh, but the feedback is so bad. We are singing.
Huh?
It can be heard. You cannot be heard.
The feedback is horrible. Hold on.
I will get out.
Sige, you try it.
I think your computer, Topax, or are you sure?
Yeah, we'll put up one. We'll of the nation's leaders. So, buti na lang, kaklase natin. So, he has more patience with us. Ah,
Nakakahiya na nga. Walang hiya naman yung tao mo. Dali.
Chinese. Magalit sa akin yan dahil
the head of Zoom is fixing it.
How long?
Hi, Dick.
ay, who's that?
Susunod din yung sinabi ko sa'yo. Tumakbo ka. Yung pa, matagal na.
Hi, Bobby. How are you? I saw you kanina. I said, was that Bobby? Indeed. Ay, good to see you, Bobby.
Kaya, kailangan kumpanya ka.
We can just record it and then send it.
Well,
We will behind you.
We'll see. I'd rather you're in front of me. Really, I want him in front of me. Lahat kayo.
You'll be surprised, the Zoom pala here is controlled by Singapore. So the head of Zoom here is on the phone now in Singapore, and I'm wondering what happened.
I'm having lunch with the Singapore ambassador on Tuesday. Tell them I'll report them.
So I guess we'll go ahead. They should be fixing it one way or the other and start recording. Is that
May
okay
replay
with you
naman ito,
guys?
di ba? Topax, may replay naman ito, di ba? They can watch later.
Yeah, we can. We're recording it.
Is it live on Facebook?
Live sa Facebook through Visibility is handled by Arman Benko. Is also here with us now. They're doing it with Facebook. We won't see it. We won't see them in our Zoom, but they're here.
Yeah.
And we're getting some questions. Okay, we'll proceed.
Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go back to where we were 10 minutes ago. Thank you for joining us. Everyone is now muted. And let me give you a brief intro to somebody who really needs no introduction. Our friend, classmate, and senator, but he prefers to be called simply Dick. Let me just go to his brief timelines from his starting days as the young mayor in the 1980s of Olongapo City, transforming the Sin City into a model city in several terms. Subsequently, almost immediately, there was a problem with the U.S. Subic, U.S. naval base leaving Subic. And despite not having any law at that time, he was able to push the idea of making Subic as a free port. And as a result, leading the turnaround with volunteerism. In other words, unpaid people who joined him to make Subic and turn it around into the hub that it is, inviting over 200 foreign companies almost overnight through volunteerism and making Subic, the Subic Bay Subic Bay, what do you call it, SBMA, what it is today. Next stop was tourism. Turned around the country from almost very, very small volume of tourists by his promoting the company with the Wow Philippines program. That turned around. I think, if I remember right, that was the first time the country saw 2 or 3 million tourists for the first time. Next stop was the Senate, of course, where he is today. Very few of us will know that he authored the automated elections law, and there will be a lot of questions about that later, I'm sure. He was also able to transform the economic landscape, by creating economic zones in La Union, Bataan, and Baguio. He was also chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. I don't know if she's still the chairman, but still the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Always have.
And that has been an interesting committee. We'll talk about that later. But for the most part, people probably don't realize that he's been working with the Red Cross for over 24 years. And he's now the chairman.
53 years.
How many years?
54, actually. 54.
54. Kasi tanda ko. Okay. As chairman and CEO of the current Philippine Red Cross. If I understand it right, from what I've been reading, the Red Cross has done more for the pandemic, fight against the pandemic than all the agencies of government combined. More than 25% of all tests in the country are done by the Red Cross, and also pioneering the saliva PCR test, which I understand, based on the feedback from some travelers and OFWs, is the only certificate accepted in the US and Hong Kong. I don't know about the other countries. Uh, as you know, we've been hit by all kinds of tsunami. Each time, the Red Cross was there to turn it around. From Ondoy, Yolanda, even kidnappings, and all earthquakes, Taal. The first action people you see are Red Cross people, almost always led by a red-jacketed Dick Gordon. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome and listen to one of the nation's leaders, the most, to us, a close friend and classmate, Dick Gordon. Let's give him a big welcome. And Dick, it's your time.
Thank you very much, Topax. I'm very happy to be with our classmates and your guests and our fellow alumni from our alma mater. And speaking about our alma mater, President Aquino was an Atenean, and we all mourn for him. And I'd like to give it a thought. We don't have to pause. We don't have to say a minute of prayer. I've been praying for him last night. He was a fellow senator, very studious in his work, very, very precise, and when he asks questions, to the point that, you almost think that talagang hinihimay niya talaga yung mga batas. And we had long interpolations, and you just have to make sure that his questions are followed to the letter, because it will expand the interpolation all the time. We're sorry we lost a good man, and certainly we're all the lesser for it. I'm sorry that he had to go suddenly that way. I think there are messages about lifestyle. Some of you are smoking. Please stop smoking. And at the same time, take care of your health, including myself. We have to watch our weight, and we're no longer spring chickens. But anyway, we send our condolences and commiserate with his sisters and the entire Aquino family. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I always like to quote Robert Francis Kennedy, and I said, a revolution is coming. It will be peaceful if we're wise enough, compassionate if we care enough, successful if we're fortunate enough. We can affect its character, but we cannot alter its inevitability. And that's the Philippines for the last so many decades, since after the war. After the war, we've never managed to take advantage or go to the prime, effort to try and get investments. We had parity, but we thought about it as fixing the blame problem with America. We thought it was one-sided. We could invest in America, and they could invest in our country, and we took that for granted. We could have gotten a lot more companies here in our country at that time. At least I know when they left, we have property that they left behind in the name of the Red Cross, and that's why we've been husbanding those properties very, very well. At the same time, we had the bases, and the bases in Japan still exist until now. In fact, Japan pays for them. Well, we kicked out the bases, and we were even insulted by them saying we don't negotiate with people with a cash register beside them. Well, I said that our air forces are going to be all air and no force. Our navy will all coast and no guard, and our army will only be me and no arms. And last night I commiserate also with our soldiers, our airmen who died in a helicopter crash, a brand new helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter, licensed to Poland, and we bought that because it was, I suppose, cheaper. But nonetheless, there were 6 airmen that died late in the morning or early in the morning yesterday. So I guess when you look at all the missed opportunities in our country, you can see that leadership ails us. Is it really just leadership, or do we have to reinvent ourselves? Di ba tayo naging palaasa? Hanggang ngayon, we thrive in instant gratification. From the time we vote, sabi nga nung isang partido, from the cradle to the grave, yung KBL, talagang nandun lahat. Sinusuportahan tayo, kasal at libing, hanggang sa libing. So really, we have colonized ourselves. I've always said early on when I graduated from college, I said there is still an American or a colonial hangover in our country. And the colonial hangover is in the walls in our mind. That we always say, hindi natin kaya, mahirap lang tayo, walang ambisyon. So I'm not blaming our people, but I think that we have to be conscious of the fact that if a country wants to move like Japan, they were wearing kimonos when Admiral Commodore Perry went to Japan in the 1850s. There was a civil war going on in America, and the Japanese right away took note of the mighty Navy, so that by 1883, when the Tokugawa, when the Meiji Restoration came in less than 30 years, Japan, built steel plants, built trains, and sent people to study the German government, copied the British Navy, copied technology from all these other nations, an eclectic nation. And before you knew it, Japan had sunk the Russian fleet in the Battle of Tsushima in Korea. Korea is the same thing. We sent troops to Korea, and after 30 years after the Korean War, or 35 years, they hosted the Olympics. Japan was bombed by 2 atomic bombs during the war, and they were able to get back. So you have to really come down to the fact that you need a quality people who require a quality leader. And that's what we have to bring to the plate. I'm not yet a candidate, but that is certainly a wish that I devotedly pursue, that we must always try to be a quality population, a quality government. That's why I think, I hope you will not think me immodest. I always try to say, aim high everywhere I go to my people, because ang trabaho ng leader ay palabasin yung galing ng Pilipino, i-define yung tao, at talagang hindi lang pwede na o pwede na yan. And so the philosophy is important. We need to uplift ourselves, as in the Red Cross. We want to alleviate human suffering, but we have to have that work ethic. Kaya bawal ang tamad sa Olongapo. Hanggang dito sa Red Cross, ginagawa natin yan. Lalong bawal ang tanga. Nangyari, tatanga-tanga yung ating mga leader na pag-iwanan na yung education natin. Ngayon, napakababa natin sa reading comprehension. Tayo ang pinakabababa, whereas before, we had the highest literacy rate in Asia. And having said that, we used to be only second to Japan, and now we have become Asia's used to be. So, having brought that those topics as hard as I can, what do we really need? I want a Filipino who will be respected anywhere in the world, not just because they're domestics or they are nurses abroad. We want a Filipino that can find his future in our own Filipinas, not a Filipino that has to go out and find his future in a foreign country. I have brought many Filipinos back who were exploited, and then they go there and their contracts have been changed, their passports are taken, they're raped, they're beaten up, and I can tell you names of people. I just brought back yesterday a Filipina who lost her job and she died, and we had to bring her back home. This morning I brought back a Filipina who lost her father, and her mother is also in articulo mortis right now. So there's always that thing, and yet they have contributed a lot, and therefore we really must pay attention, because again, there is that addiction to quick fixes. We don't fix the blame, the problem. We often fix the blame. So having said that, you need a brand new leadership where to make sure that the Filipino is respected everywhere. You must really create a definition of who we are. And over the years, by experience, I've defined the Filipino as caring, must be caring. The country must be caring. compassionate, competent, competitive, creative, and he must foster unity. He must be liberal, he must be tolerant, and he must really end up with a transformational, tolerant, safe, stable, and secure society. It's important that we realize who we are and also where we're going. When I became mayor of Olongapo, the first thing I said is better to know where we're going and not know how than to know how you're going and not know where. And in 1980, just as I took over, I showed the plan of making Subic a free port along with connecting the airports and seaports in Luzon, Subic, Clark, and Manila. 3 airports at that time connected by the highway and a lot of land in between. And I said we can even have joint use of the bases. I don't know why you put that picture there. And let me just point out that at this time, let me just point out that we really have to have a plan for the future. And Subic would never have been there had we not involved the people. People must be part of the process of change. Every schema, every position I had been privileged to handle, people were always part of the process of change. Well, figures also because we have high dreams, and as one Atenean used to say, "I am he who dreams, but I am he who will make your dreams come true." And he said, "I am youth. Hear me, for the future is mine." And that's why I'm surrounded by myself all the time, even now, with young people who are schooled not only in our school but in other public universities in the Philippines and also in the United States, from Harvard, Stanford, and they can see some of them in the picture. I don't know if you're seeing it in the volunteer park, which I erected in Subic Bay. Now, when you start thinking of the program, I had a little outline prepared, but I just want to point out that all this will happen if we all focus. And there are 5 F's again. We have to focus on what we have to do. We have to be fast because the world has become very fast. We have to be friendly. In other words, no corruption. We have to be flexible. And above all, we must have look at the future all the time. We're forward looking. Now, having said that, I will now be very quick here. We need firm and fair, purposeful leadership. We need to make sure that that leader unites and reinvent the Filipino in a vision that everybody can buy into. And you can only have that if the leader has a track record of integrity, of getting jobs, because we need jobs. That's the number one thing we need. Because pag tinanong mo ang tao ngayon, wala kaming pera, wala kaming pambili. And you know, poverty happens when there is an absence of choice. And without money, without jobs, you don't have too many choices. So, the leader must be able to have that experience of getting investments, making sure that he dares, making sure that he can provide the opportunities for his people, that he's known throughout the entire world as a respected leader, not the current type that we have, the curses, and not the other types that we have that they shown more corruption than accomplishment. And so today, we have to make sure that do our priorities by spending only on what we need, not our wants. We learned that in high school. And to make sure that we maximize our services and we make sure we maximize the opportunities. There are many things that we can do right away. For example, government has not been able to provide the opportunities that our people need. For example, I tried to have a rich bill. It was passed on both Congress, but unfortunately, it was recommended to be vetoed. We're becoming a vetocracy. You know, good bills are vetoed and only the bills of the administration are passed. And that's tragic. And I just want to point out that you also have to modernize our agriculture. Do you know that 57% that our people our farmers are old? The average age is 57. There are only 5 million farmers and 40% are below poverty, and many of their children don't want to farm. After all, land reform was done in form, and they created only 3 hectares, which are not economically feasible. And I propose that we should really have combine these lands and make sure that the farmers can not only till, but he can also find work in another company because he can put up their own company in a cooperative that is being done, by the way, by Dole or by, if I'm not mistaken, Del Monte before. Now, we need to modernize our agriculture. Do you know that there are 400,000, and I said this many years ago, and it's still 400,000 irrigation that is still busted until now. And all you need is 60,000 to fix it. And that will produce another 2.5 million cabanas of rice to feed our people. So definitely our agriculture has to be modernized. We have to be tough on corruption and crime. I head the Blue Ribbon Committee, and I have the privilege of saying to you that there are two of the highest officers of the Immigration Department who are brats of the president, and they are still in jail because we got the evidence by getting the videotape of them taking money in Soler from the Chinese operation of a gambling den in Cagayan and in Clarkfield. And we also have people in customs still in jail right now, brokers that really break the bank insofar as the country is concerned. And we have two colonels that are running away still, because one of them is the number 2 in PIDEA, because they faked the fact that there was no drugs in magnetic containers that they had put up. And, we found and made sure that we were able to put the evidence together in the Blue Ribbon Committee. I'm very proud of the work that my staff and my people had done to make sure that we were able to catch them. General Albayalde did not have a proper retirement because the president was really going to be nice to all the policemen and the soldiers. After all, we have raised the salaries of the policemen to 30,000, that is entry level, while our teachers languish with a starting salary of 22,000 pesos or even 21,000 pesos. And as one article or several articles that I've read says, it's the teachers, stupid. You can build all the buildings you want, but if we do not take care of our teachers, we're not going to get anywhere. Walang mangyayari sa atin. And we have to be tough on corruption. Bumaril na yung police, pinobrot pa, dinala pa doon sa ibang lugar. And this is not only the case. Why do you think I'm so tough on crime? Because I personally experienced my father being assassinated, and attempts were made on his life 3 and 4 times. On the 4th time, they were successful. They even burned their house. I can go on and on, but there peace and order, the fight against corruption, these are hackneyed phrases. And certainly, you have to strengthen the capacity of local governments. Look at what is happening now in terms of having devolved health to local government. They're executing no huddle plays, no forward-looking plans. And by the way, this is not going to be the last pandemic. You can have a lot more pandemics. So instead of going to Lakbay Arals and spending their largest, they're about to get another 350 billion pesos, making their budgets up to 1.1 trillion for local government because of the Mandanas ruling. And therefore, the next president should be able to make sure that they're able to get the proper training so that they can implement it properly, so that their era, which is now at 877, which will soon go to 1.1 trillion, will be spent properly. I have, I've been a Secretary of Tourism, and I authored the bill on tourism, making it the engine of growth. And by the way, Topax, I wasn't really interested in international tourism, although we got the attention of the international tourism so much so that I got elected in absentia in my first year in the Pacific Asia Travel Association, the biggest in Asia Pacific, and became director of the World Tourism Organization. And why is that? Because they knew we had no budget, unlike other countries like Thailand, and I had no budget to pay, very, very expensive advertising agencies. So we put up Wow Philippines, and Wow Philippines means a world of wonders. You can go to places, and say literally, Wow Sorsogon, watch our whales. You can go to, if you're cold in New York or in Sweden, you can go warm over winter in Boracay, or you can go wild over water in Siargao. They're all WOW. You can go wild over water in an unknown river called Mambuaya, which became popular And the two Cagayanes up north and south got the tourism. And I'll tell you, the whole effort was to make domestic tourism na huwag maging dayuhan sa ating pamilya, sa ating sariling bansa, at kailangan talaga malaman natin kung ano ang lakas natin. We have to look at our inner selves to know who we are, what we have, and what we can maximize. So I will cut to the chase and now let you ask questions. But I'll go back before I end. Again, a favorite quotation of mine. I try to use these quotations to fire up the imagination of our people. And that's Ralph Waldo Emerson. When he says, not gold, hindi pera, but only men can make nations great and strong. Men who for truth and honor's sake, di ba yun ang hinahanap natin? Integrity, truth, and honor's sake, stand fast with their principles and suffer long their sacrifices along the way. Brave men who work while others sleep. Men who dare while others shy. These are the men who take risks, or the entrepreneurs. Not only private business, but government must be brave enough to go far away from the shore, make the shore disappear, and go to the horizon and become a horizon chaser. Men who dare while others shy, they build the nation's pillars deep and lift them to the skies. And on that note, I will now accept your questions, and we can have a nice discussion, freewheeling, and let us move on to the next phase. I hope I didn't take too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dick. For a lot of our audience, maybe a good number may be seeing you only for the first time. We go ahead now with the questions we received. I'll start off, if you don't mind, with the first question that has been asked, normally asked with our special guest. And this is all about your personal philosophy or vision for the Filipino and the Filipino nation. Let me quote the question. It says here, Putin turned around Russia after its breakup by bringing back pride in the motherland and restoring places of worship to the vastly religious, I think, Orthodox Church population. What do you think are the foremost values that will rally the Filipinos to unity and progress at this time?
Well, I'll expand on what I said earlier. You have to define your country, our country. And like I said, you have to make sure that they don't feel an inferiority complex, that they want instant gratification, that they need instant opportunities to be created. And what is the philosophy? You need to make sure that the people take part in the changes that you want, that they reform themselves, that we reinvent government. And I have a record to prove that it has been done. I did it in Olongapo. I challenged society when I ran as a student when I was in UP, taking up law because my father had been assassinated. And I ran in the Constitutional Convention. My teacher even said, you're going to lose. My mother was very adamant that I continue with law school. Meron matigas sa ulo ko. And we did that. In other words, you have got to be headstrong. And at the same time, you have to make sure that when you do all these things that you want to do, people will always be there. And I became the youngest delegate, and that's not an accomplishment. What is one of the things we do? Again, talking about my philosophy, there are a Bill of Rights, but we need a Bill of Duties and Obligations of our people. Hindi lang kabig, dapat may tulak. Basically, you can see it in all the slogans that we put up there. I told you I was a cheerleader, and they work in Olongapo. We have color-coded jeepneys. It work in Subic. You can go to Subic and say, para ako nasa Amerika, huwag ka mag-ingat ka, huhulihin ka ng pulis dyan pagkakuan at wala no nonsense at hindi ka papaikutin, bayad ka ng fine sa building na yun, ayos ang buto-buto. Walang corruption. And that's important. You know, people can be safe in transportation. We made people believe. I put up 2 aircraft carriers, and I said, this aircraft carrier is leaving Olongapo. That's Olongapo today. And that aircraft carrier, you can see the mountains and in the background. And then this is the aircraft carrier of Olongapo tomorrow, and you can see the mountains in the background. It's not sleight of hand. I just said, that's San Francisco. You know, same carrier. And we can be that community. And we were on our way. Unfortunately, in this country, success indeed has 1,000 fathers, but also envies. We're still marred in our envies and our insecurity. They cut our legs off. We already had Lee Ka-shing awarded the Freeport and FedEx. And what happened? We had air. We became the hub of FedEx in the whole world. And we got UPS in the process in Clark. We got DHL in Manila. And then now we had Lee Ka-shing, one of the biggest port operators in the world. And we had him on the line. And unfortunately, they were let go by Imperial Manila. So the philosophy is there. You've got to be headstrong. You've got to make sure you trust your people. And above all, you've got to make sure that your leadership of such a quality is of such a quality that people will trust you. I'm not candidate yet, but I can tell you, my people trust me. You cannot just get people to volunteer without pay. You cannot get young people. They're the most, skeptical. But we have done that, and we're still doing that in the Red Cross. You can look at all the houses built. You can look. Those are things that can happen when a people work together. And isang buhat, sabi nga nila, at bawat oras sama-sama sa hirap at ginhawa, and you respect them. In the picture, you see all the names of the volunteers who volunteered in Subic, and they're still there. And when somebody dies, they put flowers there. Before I left, I made sure it was there. Next question, please.
Okay, next question. We're going to talk about basically 5 areas, 5 dimensions. We're talking about governance and corruption, economy during and after the pandemic, the foreign policy, and political and constitutional reform. So the questions are more or less organized according to these categories. So we'll start with the issue of governance and corruption, if that's okay with you, Dick. Some of these questions, more or less, are addressing the same issues. For example, it is recognized that the biggest type of corruption is what they call regulatory capture, where Congress is part of the source. And you have also the problems in judiciary. We're victims of judicial corruption. I am anyway. When the judges are paid, and you have to spend heaven and hell to reverse the decision. Then you have the customs, and all of this corruption, VIR, etc., is still prevalent, and the perception today is it's even worse. So how would you start if you were elected president? How would you start addressing, starting to resolve this issue of corruption? Clearly, it cannot be done overnight. What would be your priorities? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Okay.
There you go. See, we have to fix the problem because you have muted me, and I had to unmute myself.
No, that's not
You
true.
were able to solve the problem. We're able to solve the problems. Huh? Now, you're talking about corruption. Trouble is, we keep talking about corruption. Haven't you seen me do something about it in Blue Ribbon, in Olongapo? We have locked up policemen, literally, and announced to the public that this guy tried to extort a jeepney driver, and now he's in jail. And they made the driver sign a. I have so many of those things. But the point is, you have to have a leader that means business. You have to have a leader that make sure that the attitude of the people is that they can go to him, they can call him, or they can call his people, and that they would be available to make sure that there is quick action on their complaints. You talk about customs. Well, sinata natin yung customs. Ngayon, nakakulong yung mga yan. I told them, all you have to do is take a look at the importations of China here and how much of it is taxed, and you can see na wala nangyayari. And napupunta lahat sa Divisoria and other places. You can take a look at, do you remember Captain, the one who made the coup? Captain Paldon. Oh, we locked him up for 6 months, and we came back. He was more humble than he ever was because he thought that he was so strong that we cannot do anything. And I had him charged with contempt, and we were able to get a picture of him with the Chinese smuggler and his assistant stop what was supposed to be an escorted delivery so that they can catch them at the end of the line. And Colonel Estrella rebuffed that and botched the job. It has got to be an everyday effort. And if you have a sincerely, strong president, firm and fair, and they know that they cannot get away with it, people will start washing themselves. You cannot just warn people that you're going to be honest, etc. You've got to show it. You got to be brave, and that's why I say the leader that we elect doesn't have to be me. Can be another person, but certainly if you get me, if I do run, I'm going to make sure that there is leadership that is courageous and compassionate at the same time. Firm and fair, purposeful. And that is important. And that he understands the government. He must be experienced in all the shenanigans that go on. And I think my experience in having run as an executive many of these things that we complain about and having succeeded dramatically, now your domestic tourism is in the area of about 120 million, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas before, mga stranger tayo sa ating sariling bansa. And we were able to get tourism, foreign tourists go up. But the point is, we must be consistent. Corruption exists when there is no consistency. Predictability, you know the drill. Predictability, you know that what's going to happen next. You have to know that we make sure that if you want your country to be competitive, there must be government competence. There must be a regime of stability in the policies and predictability, and the tax regime must be fair. And if you don't do that, panay lagayan yan. And kailangan manghuli ka. At kung hindi mo mahuli, palpak ka. Because tatanga-tanga ang presidente na nakikita pinag-uusapan na ng tao tapos wala pa silang ginagawa. I have never seen a president act viciously, violently against you. Ang kinakaya natin, yung mahihirap, yung nagtitinda na bata ng shabu na parang kumita siya. Walang trabaho eh. Pero hindi natin hinuhuli. Pag nahuli mo yung bata, tanongin mo, saan galing yung shabu mo? Galing po dito sa bossing dito. Pagdating doon sa bossing, hinuli mo, sino nagsusupply sa'yo? I did that in Olongapo. We went all the way up to Baguio. And together with the late Colonel Ortega, we were able to drum out those shabu dealers. It's got to be continuous, fluid, relentless, unstoppable commitment to change and to fix corruption in our country.
Third question, quick reaction to the issue of political dynasty. Is this a pipe dream, or is it even really a concern, given the regional, demographics, geographical structure of our society?
It's not only here, but in America and all over Europe, they have they call it by other names. But the point is, it is not that. We want to get people who are the best in society, and the problem is with the people who will elect them. Because they know kung napambira naman, isang pamilya, lahat na ng posisyon doon sa probinsya, sila na lang at nagpapalit-palit, and they have the gall to say, ako naman dyan sa Congress, ako naman sa governor, ako naman mag-mayor. Di tama yan. So, kung gusto, maraming paraan. Kung ayaw, maraming dahilan. And you know what? What you're doing is the right way. You should bring the candidates together, and you should start asking them, how are you going to do it? How are you going to make sure that the job is going to be done? I've been running, I've been running all the time, and I've always been waiting since I ran into CONCON. I answer all the questions as frankly, and when I get in power or in the office, I make sure that I keep my promises.
Right. Next question. This time, I think you're very familiar with this. Should we have a Department of Disaster Resilience to better coordinate the relief programs?
You have too many departments. You have already the Department of Defense that is reigning supreme over the Office of Disaster Management. And I can tell you this, I made that law, and I could have done a separate department. Why? You'll have another agency. You'll have another. It's not quantity of leadership. It's quality of leadership. It's important to make sure that we get the quality, the best and the best of the crop. At saka, di ba, nagalit pa sa akin yung presidente natin. Sabi ko, bakit pa na yung military? Wala naman tayo ang makuha. Sabi ko, napaka-shallow naman ang bench nyo. Nagalit sa akin. At tinawanan ko lang siya. But the point has been made, and take a look, We're all acting as spectators, but you know, every one of us watches for somebody to lead first. Mauna ka muna, mauna ka muna. Pag may pinatay, doon lang tayo tatalo. Last night, may pinatay na naman na fiscal. And that was the point of my meeting yesterday, to make sure that we give the family some form of pay when somebody dies, and it will be given to them. But you know, riding in tandem, or I don't want to call it riding in tandem, but criminals on board motorcycle, di naman lahat. Ang tagal-tagal na yan eh. Do you know that we have not had plates for the last 8 years sa motorcycles? And you know who discovered that there are no plates? Because they want it that way, because many of the sales dealers of motorcycles, they are asking them to pay installment at walang certificate of registration. Wala ni ano. And so, pagka papakita yon, kukunin na lang yung motorsiklo, wala nang kaso-kaso because walang hawak yung tao. So, that's the corruption there. And it's going to come out this week because we're going to be reporting that investigation very soon. And yet, all you have to do is come out with a bigger plate. Anong ginawa ng mga corrupt dyan? Ang sabi nila, 2 plaka raw ang lalagay ko. Doble plaka. Sabi ko, doble nakaw kayo. Nagnanakaw na kayo na walang plate. Nagnanakaw ko pa kayo sa certificate of registration. Ang dami niyong ninanakaw dahil pinapalabas nyo. Ito baliwala. I only have a sticker in the front, right there, and this plate at the back, and take a look. You can compare it. So, and it also is connected with the computer technology. So, pagka yan ay may nahuli, i-report doon sa technology. You have an operation center, and it has a QR code. At bawal pag nawala ka ng motorsiklo, nawala ka ng it protects the motorcycle owner. Pag ninakaw yon, dapat i-report na kagad. At kung nagamit sa pagpatayan, he will be charged with a possible accessory in the crime. So really, it is so important na yung mga yan, we solve those problems in a practical manner. And if you'll be patient, we'll be able to get this done for the motorcycles and for the cars.
Back to the current issue of drugs. How would you solve or address the drug issue or drug problem differently?
Where do drugs come from? Everybody knows. Comes from China. Akala ko malapit tayo sa China. Akala ko kaibigan natin yan. I would take it to the UN because there's a drug invasion going on in our country and it's killing our people. Either the shabu users are killing themselves or they're being killed by rotten policemen. So to my mind, make noise about that. Make sure that they close the doors to smuggling there, and make sure there is an unceasing, unstoppable raids that are conducted not on the small fish, get the big ones. Meron na ba kayo narinig na nahuling malaki lately? Eh ako nga, hinuli ko na mismo yung number 2 ng PIDEA. Tumakas na. Meron ba ako narinig sa mga kaklase natin sa Ateneo? Oh, nahuli ni Dick yung number 2. Bakit hindi hinuhuli ng mga pulisyan? Bakit tahimik ang gobyerno? Your silence is deafening. And ayan, sinerch ko pati bahay niya, pati mga resort niya, pati kotse. At yung isa involved sa pagpatay ng Korea. At tinatanggi na walang drugs. Nahuli namin, tumakas na, tumago na. Oh, we need the people to be part of the process of change and say, we will not take it any longer. We cannot see people being killed every day. I have delivered the most number of privileged speeches condemning all these people. And again, we might even open another investigation. You know that just yesterday, I was saying to you, a fiscal was killed while fixing his car. Nilapitan siya ng tao, binalisa, sumakay sa motorsiklo. I can show you pictures of people being killed. A humble tanod, binaril, darap-harapan del silite nila. At makikita nyo doon sa Isabela na naman, itong papakita natin na pinagbabaril yung pamilya at kalala, napatay na nila. At ano nangyari? Ayan, nakikita nyo, binamasingan sila. O, ayan. Broad daylight, UN Day. Walang tigil ang baril. O, tingnan nyo yung circle, mamaya. Tumakas yung mga pamilya, mabuti may abilidad, may tama yung tatay, gumapang palabas, pupunta doon sa likod. Anong ginawa nito mga masasamang tao? Hinabol pa. Makikita nyo, ayan, bumalik. Ayan, dala-dala yung baril. Nagputukan siguro 1 or 2 minutes. And then, umalis, may nakasunod na truck, may nakasunod na kotse, may nakasunod na tricycle, wala. I had to take that guy here incognito and hide him in a hospital and take him out of that area because these guys were out to kill him talaga. And then, you want to be shocked, I'll shock you more. The only place where I can show it, in Pampanga, there is this barangay tanod na dinaanan lang ng motorsiklo, nagalit na sila dahil sinita sila na wala silang mask, binalikan nila. At nung binalik nila, ayan, tingnan nyo, nag-uusap pa yung dalawang barangay tanod, umalis siya. O, tingnan nyo ngayon, dumaan ng kotse, tumayo yung barangay tanod, nakaberde, hindi naman tigalasal. Ayan na, may bisikleta, pagtalikod ng bisikleta, binaril, point blank, bang, bang, tuloy-tuloy yan. Tuloy-tuloy yan. At pagkatapos, ipinasa yung baril sa kaliwang kamay. Binaril naman yung tanod na nakaitim kanina. Gumapang, patakbo yung tanod. Makikita nyo, ayan. Alabas. Oh. Ayun, tumatakbo na siya. Can you imagine, broad daylight? Anong sweldo niyang barangay tanod na yan? 500 pesos? Ay, nako. And yet, there have been 30,000 killings and thievery and robberies perpetrated by these motorcycle units. Ito na nga eh. Pwede ba sa akin yung nakuna na ng litrato, nakuna na ng TV, hindi pa pinoprosecute hanggang ngayon yung Sinwesca sa Tarlac? Nakakulong lang doon? Kung ako yan, in 2 weeks tapos yung kaso niyan. That's what I do. And I'd lock him up and show him to the whole world that we lock up idiots like this. Alright, don't show that anymore. So yan, ayun ang mga sagot ko. Quick action.
Action agad. Sabi nga.
Hindi action agad. Kailangan makita mo matapang yung leader nyo. Leadership, courage, and compassion.
Question on anti-terrorism law. Do you agree with the position of the IBP that the present anti-terrorism law is inconsistent with judicial procedure? They're referring to the publication in media of the list of terrorists.
Well, I'm on record. I attacked that general. Sabi niya sa akin, nabibigay raw siya ng dugo, tabla na raw kami. Ganun katindi yung mga pilosopo dyan sa ilang mga sumusweldo ng malalaki sa military. I don't mind that they get good pay. But when they red tag, that's a no-no. And they're using the anti-terrorism law very badly. The anti-terrorism law is a good law. I supported that. Pinakiusap lang sa akin yan na pero the other anti-terrorism laws of other countries like Malaysia, when they had the emergency, they kept improving and improving. We live in a very dangerous world. And we just have to make sure that the terrorists are caught. Hindi yung pinagbibintangan lang. Ang galing ng bintang ng mga otoridad, pero wala silang nahuhuli na talagang kwan. Oh, can I talk about ilan na yan? Hostage, kinuha ko. Umakit ako sa Maluso. Kinuha yung Carmel, mga teacher ng Carmel. At ginawa silang human shields. Nabawi namin sa Red Cross yan. And then 3, Red Cross, International Committee of the Red Cross, isang Pilipina, isang Norwegian, at saka isang Swiss, at saka Italiano, we got them back. And again, that's why we're so respected at the Red Cross, because hands on tayo. And that's why, and also we're respected because we not only ask our partner national societies, they give us money to build houses, they give us money to help us, but take a look at this. We also give them money. We may be poor, but we pay our dues. And the dues are sometimes 7 million a year. But we also gave Japan $2.4 million dollars. We raised that money. And you say, help me that with the Japanese the Filipino employees of Japanese companies and friends. We gave Myanmar $20,000 during their typhoon there. And they had wave after wave coming in. You can see Indonesia, even China, we gave $25,000. America, we gave $25,000. We gave Australia $100,000. Anong balik? Hindi naman tayo transactional. Transformational tayo. Because of that, nakita nila, hindi naman pala tatamad-tamad to, hindi nakabukas ang palad palagi. I do not want to ask because when you ask the lower hand, the hand that receives is lower than the hand that gives. That's an African saying. But so far as I'm concerned, we have to prove that we are worthy of help. We have to prove that we are worthy to be part of this nation. And we did that before when we took in the Jewish people who were being marginalized by Hitler. That was one of the proudest moments of our country. But at the same time, we dropped the ball. Allegedly, we had a revolution in 1986. It was good going. But what? After that, we became spectators again. That is the big problem with our country. We're very good at being spectators, but we don't take positions when injustice happens. We must be able to make sure that we elect leaders who will allow us to take positions, because somebody's got to tell the emperor he wears no clothes.
Let's go to the issue or subject of LGU. LGU. As a former mayor, in your opinion, what's the devolution of power to LGUs in general? A good move or a bad move?
But take a look at America. America is a federal government, and they have states that are really independent of the federal government, practically. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad. Devolution is necessary. I believe that closer proximity is better. You don't want to govern from Imperial Manila, but trust, but verify. You cannot allow them to put their money, and makikita niyo yung mga barangay hall, napakaganda, para mga palasyo, palayang libahe nila, napupunta sa Boracay, doon nagko-convention, kunyari, lakbay dunong. We cannot have that. And you have to make sure that when it comes to health, that's a very big responsibility. The health system is protected, and to make sure that we strengthen their capacities by training, and to make sure that they're overseen. You know, I put in a law called plebs. I was not a senator then, my wife was. And I asked her to file the bill. Police law enforcement boards, as Ateneans, you know, the plebeians, they're the common people. And the plebeian is supposed to be served by the police. Nakalagay pa doon, serve and protect. But actually, the sa law na ito, the plebs can remove right in the community a dastardly criminal policeman. Pero anong ginawa? Hindi pinalalabas. I have even given them money. Hindi pa rin ginagawa. And therefore, we are, that is something that the president should look at. You have the police commission. Ang dami pa rin police na nandyan, hindi nakukulong. I opposed the nationalization of the police force when I was in the Constitutional Convention. Marcos wanted it nationalized. There are good things and there are bad things about it. The problem is you lose the they become anonymous when they're part of a national system. And when somebody is caught, it poisons the whole basket of apples. As we say, once you have a rotten apple, it fouls up the whole basket. And it is important for us to remember that you must be dedicated to make sure that everybody falls in line. And again, I repeat, you must be firm, fair, and purposeful. And you must be deliberate. And you must be transparent. Look at the houses we build. Kaya kami binibigyan, andun ang pangalan ng pinagbigyan. Andun ang address. Andun ang nagbigay. German Red Cross. O City Bank of New York. Ayan, sa Dulag. Ayan ang pangalan ng binigay ng bahay. Ayun ang binigay na pera. You know, all this is in all the houses. Can you just keep showing it? There are 151,000 houses that we built. 80,000 were built during Haiyan and Yolanda, and we did it fast. They're all red roof houses. You know, the public may know these are the houses. Citibank wants me to show them where their houses are. I'll show them what they gave, and I'll show them the number of houses they built. And that's why we are always being given money by people who trust us. You know, I got 25 million from Taiwanese who built up the friend of mine from way back in Subic. And I got 25 million from guys like Jack Nang or their bank or Ayala, Metro Bank also, Mega World. You know, when you do that, you're trusted. They also gave sa barko natin, yung barko ng Red Cross, which is a symbol of hope when there's a disaster. I bought that because nung lahayan, hindi makapasok ang Red Cross. We had to go the highway, ang daming harang, at ang layo-layo ng lugar. And so we got this boat. And you know what? Boitis pays for the upkeep and the maintenance. And the fuel is paid for by a fuel company. So, and we don't pay wharfage because it's parked in Subic. And Red Cross, after all, is not a for-profit enterprise. And we now have molecular laboratories, and we're the number one in testing. You know, you beat COVID by making sure that you test and you trace, and people follow the protocols of hand washing, of distancing. But above all, they must have the right vaccine. We were rather timid when we got the vaccines. We should have been ahead. And I had to come in as Red Cross when I saw that we were only testing 300 a day, 400 a day by RITM. So I said, ano bang ginawa ng China? And I had the people in China, and we bought the machines from China. And, you know, we brought them in, and we now have 14 of them, 14 to be completed, and there you go. That's the scorecard. Every day I get that scorecard. And Philippine Red Cross is 3.3 million. The next one is a private entity. I think it's run by PAL, 837,000, and RITM, which is the government, which is 534,000. So you can see the Red Cross even leads in that department. But above all, we want to do vaccination. Nanguha kami ng Moderna, tinira pa ako. Bakit raw ako magpapabayad? Eh sino magbabayad ng Moderna? Kung huli na kayo, wala magbabaksin. Eh ngayon, maraming gusto kumuha ng vaccine. So sabi ko, mag-member muna kayo ng Red Cross para mabigyan kayo ng vaccination. And we put up isolation facilities. We even have an emergency field hospital. We even have amphibians. We have 170 ambulances. We're number one in blood. We've saved a lot of lives with plasma convalescent. And see what I mean? When you are focused on what you're doing and your people are inspired, they can do anything. They can walk on water because literally they can skirt on water. And I don't know if they can show you the ship where children are waiting on the shoreline because the ship is coming and they have hope. I think my people cannot keep up with me already.
Well, I am okay.
We even have a dialysis machine for free. For free. I got that from Japan, from the Tokushukai group. And they've been my friends for a long time. And I got the contributions from Bloomberry.
Okay. There is a comment here from the chat, and why is it daw ako lang ang nagtatanong? I guess the fellow asking is not familiar with our format. We have several questions that I'm reading from from people who sent the advanced question. After this, I will call on those who will need to press the raising hands button below the Zoom screen, and we will recognize them as they come in after the series of questions forwarded to me have been asked, Dick Gordon. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Last question on governance on LGU. If you ever become president, when you become president and take over, will you adopt any of the existing programs of the current administration, such as the bill, and etc.?
And that is one of the biggest flaws in this country. Pag nagbago ang administrasyon, hindi ko project ni Noño yan, project yan ni Gloria, hindi na itutuloy. And that has happened continuously. There is no continuity insofar as our country is concerned. You always make sure that the good deeds are continued. And you must make sure, para ganado sila, you give them the recognition that they have done something right. And people will feel good about it because they see continuity. It adds to predictability and consistency. Certainly, I will even praise my predecessors for doing a good job so far as that's concerned. And above all, I will make sure that local government gets trained and trained and trained, not in trips that are unnecessary, but make sure that they can be trained so that they know how to operate it properly. I think we have the visual on the ship now. Can you imagine that the Philippine Red Cross has its own ship? And we took this to Catanduanes, and you can take a look at it. And these are the young future leaders of our country, hopefully in Catanduanes. And the ship is coming in, bringing trucks, bringing motorcycles, bringing food and non-food items, and it can land on the beach. And there you go. So even the vehicles have been turned over. What is this? There's the boxes, and there is a vehicle that we brought there so that they can have a vehicle additional to the chapter in Catanduanes. so that they can move.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody wants to call, you can call my number. I'm the only politician. If you want me, I'm a proud politician. You can call my number. Text it 0920-952-7232. I take calls from everyone every day. Everything from blood to ambulances to problems in the government. And, we also need, by the way, Topax, I'm sure you know this. We both came from Procter & Gamble. R&D is very important. We're very low on that. And we should have scholarships to send them abroad. It has been done, but they don't come back. In fact, before, mga teachers sa Ateneo, mga Amerikano, mga New York Irish, but they also got professors from Cornell. Now you can't do that because the Constitution prohibits that. So it's important that we're exposed to the new world, to the ideas of the new world. We don't have to be colonized by it, but at least we know how it works. And when we do that, we can fine-tune our actions. I would imagine, I dare say this, if elected and people want a constitution, and I think we need to change some of the economic provisions of the constitution, I think that whatever changes in the constitution must be done by the elected representatives and senators with the issue of constitutional change in mind. It should be an issue so that they can discuss it. Hindi lang sumasayaw, pero may posisyon sila sa constitution at saka sa mga gagawin nila. And it should be done within the first 6 months. Otherwise, you're going to have people extending themselves in office.
Okay, so let's go back to the constitutional issues because you've jumped into it already. There's a question on, well, obviously you are in favor of amending the Constitution. What
Only in
specific?
that respect. Only in that respect.
Okay, what specific? The question here is, should there be a constitutional amendment or
Well,
a
actually,
convention? What's your position on versus parliamentary form of government and federalism?
oh, I can tell you a lot about that because the constitution we made was pretty practical. I think the Congress is so big. You know, you even have all these party lists.
Exactly.
So, daming babayaran, daming gulo. In the old days when we were younger, there were only 100 congressmen and 24 senators. Now you have over 300 people in the Congress. And yet, there is a dissonance. There is no stability because there are no political parties. So palipat-lipat sila. So I think it's important that we help formulate the parties. And what we did in the Constitution in 1971 was to have a presidential parliamentary system. And I think we can change that and go back to that because the vice president can be the head of parliament and the president can be the head of government, and therefore it can be more speedy and more practical. You'll have less congressmen and you'll have more effective government.
So you're saying you're for going to that 1971 constitution model?
No, I'm just suggesting if people like that, then it can be part of the debate in the campaign, this campaign, so that we save money. Kung tatakbo si Topax Kulayko o tatakbo si Junoy Barano, he will have to say, these are my positions in the Constitution. I will change it. And then he can engage the other guy in a debate. Eh, sino man nanalo kay Junoy sa debate? Sino man nanalo sa'yo sa debate? Pati ako, matatalo sa'yo eh. Magagaling kayo eh. So, sinasabi ko lang, pagalingan. Pag lumabas yan, malalaman ng tao, you're educating the people at the same time and you're saving money at the same time.
But what if you become president? What would be your leaning if you don't have that position yet?
Secret muna, secret. Kasi
Akala ko.
meron magagalit, hindi na ako iboboto kung tatakbo ko.
Okay, on the constitutional issue, nasa Constitution ba yung death penalty? Are you for it or not?
Yeah, the Constitution does not allow the death penalty.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. I think that it doesn't solve anything. I think that even the guys who killed my father, I would have preferred that they stay in prison for the rest of their life. I have a bill. It's about to be approved. The heinous penitentiary law. In other words, heinous crimes, special jail, which is very, very highly secured, and they're separated from the population. And if you are made guilty for reclusion perpetua, mas mahihirapan ka at magiging sisisihin ka ng pamilya mo dahil ikaw ay nagwalang yan at gumawa ka ng kasamaan. Pero pag pinatay ka, makakalimutan na yan. Ang dami-dami na pinapatay, hindi nyo kailangan ng death penalty. Araw-araw pinapatay, may pinapatay. Wala naman nahuhuli. Oh, do you think it will be a deterrent? No, sir. Pero pag nakita, kinukwelyohan niya at dinadala sa preso, ay matatakot yan. Bakit? Ng mga bata tayo, di ba? Natanda mo, nakatelevise pa. Nag-iiyak yung mga anak na mayayaman na ni-rape si Maggie de la Riva. 3 sila. Nilagay sa death penalty. It was for circus and pageant, not pageantry. Circus. Tapos noon, pumapatay pa rin yung iba. Nagre-rape pa rin yung iba. It's not a deterrent. And what is important is quick, purposeful action that punishes the guilty right away. A court that must recognize that they have to have a sense of urgency, that they do not have all the time in the world.
Should we abolish the constitutional provision allowing for party list representatives in Congress?
I'm in favor of that.
As is,
I don't think you need a party list. It's too extravagant. Nagagalit sa akin yung mga party list yan. Baka hindi na ako iboto. Pero anyway, you ask me and I will answer.
okay, good. Okay, we'll go to the category of economics. We have here a video question, and can I ask Arman Benko to share that question on the plight of the micro business and small SMEs. He heads this group in Go Negosyo. Armand, are you there? Is Armand there? Yeah. Armand, can you, there's the question.
Good day po, Senator Gordon. George Winnicky po, Presidente ng Association of Filipino Franchisers. Kami po ang nagbibigay ng mga franchise sa Pilipinas o mga homegrown po kami. We are 350 members. Tanong ko lang po, how can you help us rebuild our business after the pandemic? Alam niyo po, 99.6% po kami, kasama po kami sa micro, small, medium enterprise, which is the backbone economy of the Philippines. Kailangan po namin ng tulong ninyo. Sana po may mga programa tayo. Okay? Programa especially sa pagutang ng pera para sa aming mga maliliit na negosyante. Maraming salamat po at stay safe po kayo.
Oh.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
Sorry about that. The question is, how can we help the 99% of business in this country, which is small and medium enterprises, especially after the pandemic? We should support them so that they'll become big. Development rises in this country if the small one becomes a former sari-sari store, becomes a grocery store. The grocery store is now occupied, goes to being a mall or being a supermarket, and the sari-sari store becomes a grocery, and another guy who sells balut is now a sari-sari store owner. You have to have credit. The problem is we do not provide credit. The banks are, reeking with money. I mean, I use the word reeking. Nangangamoy ng pera ang mga bangko. Hindi sila nagpapahiram because the system is still based on mortgages. And here's where the government can come in. This is almost socialistic, if you will, but even America is now beginning to do that. Government should be able to provide funding for worthy enterprises, especially those who are organized like this, so that everybody is responsible for the other and that they must make sure that they husband the resources. Ang problema natin, itong diferensya ng araw, sinasabi ko ito palagi. Pagka yung kaibigan nating kaklase natin na Chinese Filipino ang umutang, makikita mo nakasando siya, kumakain siya ng lugaw, binabantay niya yung pabrika niya. Pagka Pilipino nakautang, nandun na sa peninsula, naka-Amerikana na, naka Louis Vuitton na, nakalahat na, at hindi binabantayan yung kanyang negosyo. So, as far as I'm concerned, pag umutang ka, dapat bayaran mo, and there should be a funding for all these businessmen who are small, and that should be priority in any administration. And there should be less bureaucracy insofar as that's concerned. You know, ease of doing business is something that we're not famous for. We have it in the law. But you know why they go to Vietnam? Madaling magnegosyo. Mura ang kuryente. Hindi magulo ang labor. At medyo autocratic yung gobyerno. So sa atin, ang daming kausap. At pagkaharap ka ng lalagyan mo, gusto mo mag-manufacture, haharap ka ng lupa, kasapin mo, alika, punta ka dito, may lupa kami. Saan? Doon, imunguso. Walang nakalagay na factory buildings o walang nakadala na lote para sa mga pabrika. At pagkatapos, ingunguso nila. Sino may-ari niyan? Teka muna, kakausapin ko muna. Hindi ko alam eh. At tapos pag nakausap mo na, walang fixed rate. Kaya ako, I'm in favor of government giving even the small business parks, if you will, where they can have a position in the export processing zones, where they can have their changi there, and they can operate there, and they can rent, and you can also create housing in those areas that people can build, so that when they work the factory, they don't disappear the whole day because of traffic in Manila. I am for decongesting Manila. I've been saying that for a long, long time. We can decongest Manila, disperse industries, but you have to make sure that people can bicycle to work so that they get a chance to see their families when they leave in the morning, and when they arrive, there's still time to talk with the kids, check their homework, have dinner with them, and make sure that you are able to inculcate values of hard work and work ethic to the children.
This question, I guess, related to dito. It says that the pandemic has been wrecking our country for over 15 months. This has resulted in hospital congestion, high unemployment, etc., etc. As chair of Philippine Red Cross, you are a daily and direct witness to this devastation.
Yes, I'm a witness to that, and I can tell you that the pandemic has hurt us. Our GDP is minus 4 point. Sorry, today it's now at minus 4.2. Minus, minus 4.2. A few months ago, at least medyo nag-minus na 9.6 tayo in 2020. But in 2016, when Pinoy was still around, it was 7.1. 2017, bumagsak na ang GDP natin to 6.9, 6.3 in 2018, 6.1 in 2019. Hindi pwede yan. Pag nakita mo bumabagsak, sabihin ko sa'yo, madali magsalita, makakakuha ka ng business. Meron ba kayo nakikita? Kung ang presidente, katulad ko siguro, katulad na ginagawa ko ng araw, kakatok ako sa Keidan rin sa Japan. Pupuntahan ko, makikipag-lunch ako sa Mitsubishi Bank. Magpupunta ako sa Mitsui para makita ko ano yung mga bagong produkto nila. At sasabihin ko, pag pupunta kayo dito, Subic, sagot ko kayo. Wala man loloko sa inyo, wala man dadaya sa inyo. Wala mang hihingi ng kontrata. You're free to select the business, the employees that you want. Same thing goes for the small business. Dapat merong support na palagi, nakatutok tayo sa gobyerno. At nakikita mo, anong effect sa atin? Kulelat na naman tayo sa foreign direct investments. Kailangan sinesell mo. Dapat sasakay ka sa maliit na aeroplano, huwag ka nang bumili ng malalaking jet. Punta ka doon, punta ka sa Japan, punta ka sa Taiwan. Yan lang, malapit na yan. Marami ka na makukuha dyan. Marami ako naging kaibigan sa Taiwan, marami ako naging kaibigan sa Japan, and they're still around. And I really push for tourism so that we can bring in investments not only in manufacturing, not only in special BPOs or something like that. We will open up the economy. Ano mo, hinigpitan ng economy. Pinigil pa yung BPO sa Maynila. Dati na gusto dito. Hinigpitan niya, kailangan dadaan ka pa sa bagong birokrasya, sa CREATE. Ito na tawag nilang FIRB. Binawasan pa yung, why are you fixing something that isn't broken? Walang ginawa ang national government para magawa namin ng Subic. Inayos namin ang Clark. Ako napasok ng bill na para ibalik yung Freeport sa Clark. Ngayon, mas malaki na ang Clark sa amin dahil andun si Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, naging presidente. I'm happy for them. Hindi ako naiinggit. Dapat hindi tayo naiinggit sa success ng ibang tao. We fix up. And you can ask the people of Bataan, we fix up the law on Mariveles. It became the Freeport area of Bataan. And because of that, they had 40,000 people. Now, bumaksak na naman because of the pandemic. You need a president who will move fast and make sure that he is known, he is respected, and his word is gold. Hindi yung packet niya is lined with gold. His word must be law, and that must be followed, and he must be credible. Tingnan niyo ang foreign direct investment natin, baksak na baksak tayo. Nangungulela tayo, talo tayo ng Indonesia, natatalo tayo ng Vietnam, at talaga nangungulela tayo sabagat even other countries, magugulat ka, pati Singapore kasi laki lang ng Subic, kasama Olongapo, Subic, Castellano, San Marcelino, Morong, and Hermosa, kasi laki lang na Singapore yan. Ang kanilang foreign direct investments is 87.4 billion. Ang Pilipino, 6.5 billion. Pwede naman tayong katulad na nangyayari sa basketball ngayon eh. Yung Ateneo, tinatalo yung South Korean national team eh. Di ba? Pwede naman yun ah. Sa negosyo, pwede yun.
May mga questions from the nurses group. Now, apparently, this is one sector na hirap because they're affected by, they cannot be deployed. And to maintain their qualification, lalo na sa mga vaccine requirement, they're saying, ubos na ho ang savings namin dahil sa requirements ng cost. The cost of complying with the requirements of IATA and I guess Department of Labor. Ubos na ang pera nila. Yun lang inaasahan nila. They cannot be deployed. What's your...
well, I'm not only just going to say it. I've written it. I've written the letter. They agreed. They added 1,500. I say, hindi lang 1,500 ang dapat yung payagan. Payagan nyo na as many as possible because hindi naman makakasakit sa atin. Pupunta sa ibang bansa. And I got my first 7 approved. And now we have another... I wrote for how many yan? Ilang hundred yan? 100 nurses called me. And I put them down and I called up magaling yung undersecretary and labor is well run by Bebot Belio and Bernard Olalia. And I can tell you, mabilis sila umaksyon. Siyempre, diyan mo makikita kung respetado yung senador, susundin. Hindi na kailangan manakot.
Okay. Going to...
the nurses are important. Do you know that there have been 2 sets of nurses who graduated that have not taken the exam? That's thousands and thousands of nurses. So dapat, kung naka-practice na sila rito, panahon naman para makapag-uwi sila ng magandang salary. Ang sweldo nila, hirap na hirap sila. Doon sa ako, babayad sila hanggang 60,000. Ang sweldo nila, dito ang SG1, tingnan nyo ang sweldo. Maawa kayo. SG11, Nurse 1, 10,535. O nilakad natin yan. Ngayon, ang sweldo, 33,575. O, ang layo, di ba? In all my speeches with them, I said we will work hard to increase the salaries, and the government did. It's just a matter of really pushing the government to pay attention to the plight of our nurses. Tapos pagka may COVID, sila ang pinakamahalaga. Tapos hindi sa sweldohan na maayos. Dapat kompleto sa benepisyo yan. Sino ba naglagay na pag namatay ang nurse o doktor sa law, may babayaran sila ng 1 million? Si Senator Gordon. I walk my talk. I walk kung binabayaran sila ng gobyerno. Chichikin natin yan. Baka di binabayaran yan. Pero hindi ko naman nababayaran.
Just a trivial side question here about these nurses. What's your take about this requirement or face shields required?
It's ridiculous. In the first place, it will cause an environmental nightmare because it's plastic. Plastic yan. Pangalawa, even the CDO of America, CDC, sorry, naisip ko kagayan doon, CDC, they say you don't need it. You only need a mask. Tayo lang ang mahilig eh. Mamaya, hihingi nila may wiper, yung mask, because nakikita na naman sila doon. Kaya nawawala ng tiwala ang tao. Hindi naman kailangan. Ba't kayo naniningil? Ba't kayo nagpapabili niyan? Sino ang nagbebenta niyan? Tingnan nga natin. Malalaman natin. Abangan ang susunod. Bakit yung mga hotel, punong-puno, pinipilit yung mag 14-day quarantine? Nainiksyonan na si Maria, nainiksyonan na si Pedro 2 beses sa Amerika. Pagdating dito, kailangan dumaan pa doon sa quarantine. Bakit? Sino ba yung mga nagbibigay sa mga hotel na yan? Naku, meron ba kayong cash sunduan? Yun ang tatanungin ng tao. Hindi ko kasalanan yan. Kayong gumagawa niyan eh. Hindi ko maintindihan yan eh. Pero dapat, kuyagan na, pag na-eleksyon ka 2 beses, and then on the 7th day, if you're in your hometown, you have to be tested. Take a swab test or take a saliva test, and then you can go. You can go out. But you don't have to be quarantined from day 1. Namatayan ka na, paghihintayin ka pa ng 14 days naman. Diyos ko naman, kawawang-kawawa naman yan. Tapos pagka hindi na sila kwan eh, mga bayani natin yan, mga bagong bayani. That's a lot of BS.
There have been a lot of questions here na nagkaano sila, nag-overlap. So when I ask a question, malamang iba, sabihin nila hindi ko tinanong ang question nila, pero nag-overlap na, ang daming pare-pareho ng tanong. For example, this one was raised a while ago. I did not bring it up. It has to do, because you touched it in one of the questions, that 1/4 of our children, 25%, are stunted dahil
Malnutrition.
malnutrition. What priority would you give to malnutrition?
Well, I'll just tell you what I do in the Red Cross. We provide women, single parents, and persons with disabilities, especially during the COVID, we provide them with food. I can show you the pictures. I can show you the list of people that are getting that. Right now, we're providing the people of Marawi 5 times in a year with boxes of food. And you can see our people there. Show the one in sa Marawi. And if you go back to the previous slide, meron yan. Definitely, that's something that we have to make sure we protect the children. We even have food trucks in the Red Cross, but this is a band-aid yan, band-aid. We're about to have 22 food trucks. Pakita mo nga yung food trucks. Papunta kami doon sa mga barangay na may hirap at magpapakain tayo ng kanin na may toppings, no? Para sila ay lumaki sila. Pero ang totoo niyan, yung malnutrition is a very, very serious issue, pandemic or not. The cost of childhood undernutrition to the country is about 4.4 billion or 1.5% of the country's economy, GDP. Every dollar invested in nutrition has the potential of yielding a $43 return. Alam nyo, we are even losing the sweet spot of our age of investment. Yung mga bata, andyan ang mga bata. Lalo pa ito ngayon, hindi pa natin tutulungan ang mga malnourished children. Ang dami nating magagamit ng mga tao dyan na talagang makakatulong sa ating mga tao na ngayon pa lang matulungan na yan. Huwag natin palakihin yung problema yan. Pag lumaki ang problema yan, lalo tayo may problema. Yung bang prenatal care, hindi pa pinapanganak. Dapat obligado yan. Pumunta sa doktor, tingnan ka agad. Baka may Down syndrome yan. Di mo alam. Dapat pag pinanganak, talagang bibigyan sila ng suporta ng gobyerno. Kailangan yan. You want a quality population. You don't let the people alone, especially if they're poor. You make sure that you give to those who are poor the help of the government so that they will become a person na hindi natin papasanin. Pagdating ng araw, they will be productive people who will be able to help the economy. And that's why you need to create jobs. Jobs. Give all the incentives that you have to, especially after this, because walang nag-iisip yan. After the pandemic or even before the pandemic ends, competition will be fierce. Other countries will be looking for investments for their own countries. Tayo dito, papetik-petik lang, walang mapupunta sa atin because walang nag-iisip niyan. Kaya ngayon pa lang, naghahanap na tayo, tinitingnan natin kung saan tayo makakapanalo sa mga investments na mapasok dito at dapat yan ay atupagin na kaagad ngayon pa lang ng Department of Trade, ng mga export processing zones, ng lahat ng mga embassies natin. Dapat tinitingnan nila kung ano mga pumapatok sa ibang bansa na makukuha natin sa ibang bansa.
Now we'll go to this topic that has been discussed all over the place. It's in favor of the month. We're talking about foreign policy and the West Philippine Sea. Ang dami-daming may kanya-kanyang opinion dyan. And here's the question from Steve Saloga. He said, given the increasing geopolitical tension between U.S. and China, how do you propose to advance the Philippine sovereign interest in the next 6 years? Do you favor increased military reliance on the U.S. or a greater economic engagement with China? Or do you favor President Duterte's approach of balancing the interest between the two?
Well, in the first place, siya ang presidente, siya ang may diskarte dyan. Ako may diskarte ako sarili dyan. I think we should all be open to all our friends, especially our traditional friends. Japan, America, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, Korea. Dapat kayo pala nag-iisip tayo. Because akala natin ay malakas ang China, pero pag tinignan mo, ang China is surrounded also by India, another friend of ours. And India has had wars with China. Ilang beses sila nagbabakbakan doon sa kanilang border. Vietnam had wars with China. Nagbabakbakan sila sa border nila kahit anong Vietnam War. Katatapos, pinasok ng China yung Vietnam, nilabanan ng Vietnam. So, ano ang suma total nito? Unang-una, dapat palakihin natin ang ating gobyerno. Ang dami natin kailangan gawin. Kaya kailangan makapagtrabaho ang tao para madadagdagan ng tax base para may pambili tayo. Para may pambili rin yung tao ng kanilang kakainin araw-araw. Pero kailangan, ang number one, na kailangan natin yung hanap buhay. Nung ko pa sinasabi yan, number one kay Gordon ang buhay at hanap buhay ng tao. Kailangan gawin yan. So kailangan talaga masipag ka na maiikot ka at talaga pinapakita mo what is the best in the Philippines and you must assure them that their investments here will be secure. We're not going to change them in the middle of the game. We're not going to mock them. Hindi natin sila babakalan. Hindi na sila masasaktan. You know, when you go to Japan, hanggang ngayon, hindi na nakakalimutan yung si Waka-Oji at tayo, yung kinidnap sa Laguna. Ang tagal-tagal, nakidnap yun. Nung nagbebenta ako ng ating mga investment prospects dito sa Pilipinas, palagi sinasabi yan. Sabi ko, ang sagot ko, alam mo, yes, sometimes we have this order in the Philippines. Yes, I condemn the Waka-Oji kidnapping. But at least, we don't have sarin gas in our trains, in our subways. In fact, we don't even have subways.
No, but the thing is, what is your take on the major concerns ng mga tao, yung sovereignty, yung laban ngayon, so WPS. What is your take on that? Is that a problem that you think will solve itself, or would you put the top priority?
No. We really have to have an alliance with them. Hindi pa naman ako tapos sa sagot ko eh. I think the problem will be with Taiwan. Look at what's happening in Hong Kong. Nakalimutan na ng China yung One China, Two Systems. Sinara na yung isang diary doon ng Apple. Kinidnap na yung ibang mga nagtitinda ng libro. Nagigpit na sila. Hinuhuli na yung mga bata. Ay susunod dyan, Taiwan. Ang pumapala lang dyan ay yung mga aircraft carrier ng Amerikano. Tatlo nangyari dyan. Pag dumating yung American aircraft carrier, pinakita ang result, aatras yan. We don't have to fight with China. We must engage with China together with ASEAN. We can go to the UN. Ayaw na ayaw nila yung marami nag-uusap tungkol sa kanila. Ang gusto nila one-on-one. Siyempre, talo tayo pag one-on-one. Kaya kailangan meron tayong mga kasama na tutulong sa atin yan. Pero huwag kayong aasa. The best antidote is a strong defense, a credible defense. Bakit ang Japan? Nagawa yan. In less than 20 years, they had a powerful Japanese Navy, Japanese Army, etc. That even conquered the Russians and for a while beat the Americans. Bakit ang Korea? Ngayon, sa kanila na tayo bumibili ng jets. Bakit tayo hindi nakagawa niyan? Ang gagaling ng eskwela natin, gagaling ng engineer natin. Kulang sa incentive, kulang sa At saka ini-spoil natin. Baka magalit na naman yung mga tiga-AFP dyan. Alam nyo ba ang utang natin sa AFP? 9.6 trillion sa pension. Because tinayap nila sa inflation rate yung pension. So every time tumaas ang inflation rate, tataas yung pension. At nakakatakot yan because yung retired military personnel, kailangan mabigyan sila ng pension at tama. Pero lahat gusto na rin ganyan ngayon. Lahat ng hanay ng gobyerno gusto may pension na katulad ginagaya sila. So really, we have to make sure that we are able to make sure that we are able to provide for the pension, but they must also know that the first duty of every citizen, that's why I had the Bill of Duties and Obligations, is to defend the country. And without the arms necessary, ang tagal-tagal na ng armed forces modernization na yan, hindi naman natutuloy. Yung indexation ng salary at pension sa military, talagang masasaktan tayo, lumalaki yung utang natin sa kanila. A lot of people do not know that, but that is a major problem. Frankly, I'm stumped. I don't know how to solve that. I can only solve it if we have more businesses coming in, if we have more taxes collected, and we don't have to tax them to death. Just widen the base. Zero ang Subic nung hinawakan natin. Basag-basag kami, tinawakan kami ng pinatubo. So the solution was, magpakamatay tayo, makakuha ng investments. Pakita natin mapagkakatiwalaan tayo. Volunteer tayo. Hindi natin nanakawin yung iniwan ng Amerikano. At yun ang naging puhunan ng mga tiga-Olongapo at tiga-Bataan na sumama sa amin nag-volunteer at pinakita nagsasakripisyo tayo. Dumami ang investments, kumikita pati national government sa Subic. And yet, pinipisil pa sila. Kami pa, alam mo sa ibang bansa, pagka mayroong producing independent itong mga special zones or special entities, dapat ini-encourage yan. Hindi nyo kinukuha yung pera, dapat pinapaikot. Parang Chinese businessman ka. Pagka kumita ka, huwag mong gastusin ka agad, huwag mong kunin. Hayaan mo siyang ipaikot yung pera para gumanda. Ayan ang ginawa natin sa Subic. Pinaganda ko yung airport. Nakuha natin ang FedEx. Nakuha natin yung seaport. Ang problema, nakuha na ni Kashing. Magaling na sana yun. Bilo nyo, he can bring in hundreds of thousands of container vans and we would be rivaling Hong Kong. Ano nangyari? Hinarang eh. Pero ganoon talaga. Pero mga negosyante talaga, gusto nila sila lang. But that's okay. Fair game yan. Competition yan eh. Pero dapat ang presidente marunong tumingin kung ano ang primary interest ng bansa. Even in the military and even in the business side. Hindi yung personal interest. Yan ang lumalabas madalas.
So do you foresee, again, we're talking foreign policy, do you foresee a more, excuse me, a more active Philippine role in the ASEAN, especially in forging regional economic and security cooperation in the South China Sea?
Ang problema ko ay ang ASEAN may policy of non-interference in the affairs of ASEAN. Ang problema ko ang ASEAN, maraming kapitbahay ng China. Pag sila usapan ng China, tahimik na sila, tameme na sila. I would favor collective security agreements or assignments so that we can make sure that they know na meron tayong sasandalan. You know, alam mo si Francis Vinson, sinabi niya nung araw, dapat magkaroon tayo ng mafilindo. Sinundan ni Marcos yan, sinundan ni Macapagal yan. Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia as one country. Hindi na natuloy yan. In fact, Bahasa was being recommended as the national language. Hindi natuloy yan. Pinatay ng Hapon si Francis Vinson. Yan ang tunay na bayani na hindi natin tinatanghal. Matalino, magaling, matapang, hindi nag-collaborate. Tapos pinatay siya. Pinatay ang buong pamilya niya. You never heard of him except doon siya sa Vincent Sol. Pinatayan ko ng rebulto yan doon sa Vincent Sol. But why am I talking about him? It's because if we don't look at our past and we don't look at our national interest, kakayanin tayo palagi ng malalaking kapitbahay natin. Even Vietnam, sisiw tayo. Ang dami nilang eroplano. Ang ating C-130, sinasabi 3. Ang alam ko, 2 lang. Isa't kalahati lang. Dahil palagi sila yung isa. Tingin mo yan, meron tayong 1,700 Filipinas stranded in UAE. Gusto umuwi. Hindi natin makuha ng C-130 natin. Bakit hindi tayo mag-charter? Sabi, mahal. Talagang mahal. Pero kung talagang totoo ka sa tao mo, puproteksyonan mo yung tao mo wherever they may be. After all, isinubo mo sila. Ang policy natin is not to get investments from abroad, but to send our people there as tools to make that country rich. And if we remove them, mahihirapan yung mga yan. So dapat alam mo kung saan ka magbabalance.
Okay. We have a few more questions. We're outside the main category. So after this, I'll open the floor. Those who are interested, please press the reaction button and press the raising hands icon so that we will recognize you. But first, a few questions. There's a question here from the floor, from the attendees. It's about the election. Sabi niya, you are promoting that we should make a choice. The question is, choice is important, but our elections are kaput with padded voters and about 8-9 million in the registries. In any computer app, just like the automated election system. Garbage in, garbage out. What can we do?
Well, the law that I designed was supposed to be for transparency. They're supposed to submit the source code. I argued this at the Supreme Court. Chairman Brillantes at that time was saying, pinakita namin ang source code. They never showed the source code. When I was there, ano pangalan niya, yung Smartmatic, they were inviting me to go to Venezuela. Then they were inviting me to go to New York. They were going to wine and dine me. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm the author of this law, and I'm not going to interfere in the affairs of the COMELEC because dapat may boundary yan. Hindi nila ginagamit yung digital signatures. Hindi nila ginagamit yung paper audit trail. Nanalo ko sa Supreme Court, 15-0. Dapat meron tayong resibo doon sa binoto natin para alam natin na yung nilagay natin mabibilang. Hindi ini-implement. Nanalo na ako sa Supreme Court, hindi ini-implement. Which leads me to the main problem in this country. We do not enforce our laws. Takot ang mga presidente mag-enforce ng laws. Titingnan muna nila ganito. Yung daliri na ilalabas sila. Saan ba ang takbo ng hangin? Pag sa doon ang takbo ng hangin, doon tayo. In other words, you need presidents that can stand on the principle of their intellectual capacity, on the principle of fairness, and the principle of national interest first, and first for the common good. Kung boboto tayo, habang naninisi kayo, tinuturo niya yung masasama sa ating gobyerno, tatlong daliri ang nakaturo sa inyo. Ba't yung sinasabi? Ako nga, wala akong kakibuki mo, sinasabi ko lang, I can run the government. Hindi ko sinasabing kandidato ko, but bigay mo sa akin yan, I can run the government. Kaya ko yan. Alam ko ang gagawin yan. Pero sasabihin niya, naku, wala kang pera. Ganun ba? Ay, naku, sa survey, talo ka. Di ba tayo gumagamit ng ulo? Ang surveys, binabayaran ng mga kandidato yan. 4. Ba't di ka dala when I was in Procter & Gamble, nagpapasurvey ako para doon sa mga produkto ko. Hindi ako nagpapapublish ng survey because ang ginagawa ng survey, pagka pinakita ka dyan, magbabayad ka ng survey, magbabayad ka ng TV, tapos regulatory capture ka dahil mahal ang TV, manghihingi ka sa mga negosyante, yun ang umpisa ng corruption. Pag tumanggap ka na at kailangan tumanggap ka, hindi ka mananalo, wala kang advertising, talo ka na. So it is a whole system na talagang wrecked ang system. It is really in crash situation right now, where our health system has failed to a certain extent, and it's if we are not careful, if we're attacked by another more vicious virus, baka bumaksak tayo dyan. Ganun rin ang ating electoral system. And you know, it's not going to be solved without you and me. If it is to be, sabi ko nga doon sa ginawa ko doon sa Light and Sound, if we want change, we must change ourselves. We must reinvent ourselves. Tagal ko na sinasabi yan. If it is to be, it must be up to us. Not anybody else, but up to us.
So what would be your suggestion to us voters to make sure na hindi tayo maisa nitong system ngayon sa COMELEC?
Walang partido eh. Walang partido eh. Noong araw, meron tayong inspector sa bawat presinto. Ngayon, kung di ka bilyonaryo, di ka magkakaroon ng presidyo. That's why volunteerism is the key. NAMPRE was a volunteer system, but it was never really successful in propagating it to the whole country. And yet, Marcos is supposed to be invincible. Nagkaroon ng dayaan, di umano. At ano nangyari? Yung mga volunteer na counters ng, I think, NAMPRE o COMELEC, nag-walk out. And that started the fire that ultimately brought the Marcos government down. Bakit wala tayong tiwala? Bakit ako nagtiwala sa mga tao sa Olongapo? Nag-volunteer sila. Bakit sa tourism? Nagtiwala ako doon sa mga panangarap ko na gawin ko yung Intramuros na major destination. Nagawa yun. Punta kayo doon, yung mga kalesa, pinag-uusapan nung hanggang ngayon, kumita sila, naging tour guide sila, nag-improve sila, at yung mga nagtitinda ng taho, pinapasok natin, naka-uniforme lang, nagtitiwala sila at kaya nagvo-volunteer sila na malinis yung paligid. Kung di tayo magvo-volunteer, meron tayong kusang loob, malasakit at kapwa-tao, we will never succeed in this country.
Yes, parang chicken and egg, Dick, no? Because volunteerism thrives because there is trust.
Well, where would America be without the Minutemen? Where would
Yeah.
America be? They were fighting the mightiest nation in the world. And they beat them. And that's why they have a Statue of Liberty given to them by the French. Tayo, meron tayo Sentinel of Freedom, yung kay Lapu-Lapu, sa Rizal Park, ayaw pa nung Historical Commission, gagalit sila, bakit raw nilagay si Lapu-Lapu doon? Ipakinggan nyo nga ako yung national anthem. Sa manlulupig, di ka pa sisiil. Si Rizal ang mamatay ng dahil sa iyo. Si Lapu-Lapu, Bisaya at Mindanao. Si Rizal, Luzon. O bakit di tayo magkaisa? You know why? Because leaders have never shared their vision with the people. Ang leader na magaling, sasabihin, doon tayo pupunta. Gagawin natin yan. Kaya natin yan. He will egg you forever. He will push you. He will drive you. And when you're driven, we win. If you're not driven, we lose.
Good message. Before I call on those people with the raised hands, just to footnote, I got this just a few minutes ago from Hong Kong. It says, you know this source, Dick, Michael. On the footnote, he said, we did a survey. This is Metro Radio Hong Kong. We did a survey regarding the establishment of a new department for OFWs that is currently being presented in the Senate. 98% of those surveyed is against this bill. Sadly, this is a priority of the president. Please note that there was no consultation, at least here in Hong Kong, regarding this proposed bill. This is also additional cost to the national government coffer, let alone the likelihood that there will again be added costs that will be shouldered by the OFWs. Similarly to the number of mandatory contributions currently imposed, such as SSS, OWA, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, OEC, etc. I don't know if this is a question, but he just wanted me to relay this sentiment to you.
The sentiments are welcome. And I want you to know I did not author the law, but I sponsored it because I believed in it. Because ang dami-dami, may polo doon sa mga embassy, kulang naman. Tapos ang ating foreign affairs naging parang taga-pagtanggol at taga-ayos ng mga OFW. Tama lang yon. Pero dapat naghahanap sila ng mga nangyayari sa ibang bansa. There are intelligence gathering. They're the ones that make us come up with agreements with other countries. Nagiging ko na rin sila. So, ang tingin ko, kailangan natin magkaroon ng overseas Filipino workers para we can streamline government services, yung POLO, yung OWA, POEA, at saka DFA. Nagkakagulo palagi, nagbabangga-banggaan. Ang hirap pag nasa Saudi ka, ang lalayo ng mga POLO dyan. Pwede naman tayo maglagay ng system dyan na hindi mo na kailangan makipagkita pagka meron ng office of foreign for overseas Filipino worker. I will adopt the proposal na dapat, katulad ng sinasabi ko sa LTO, meron tayong operation center na lahat ng tao dyan meron cellphone. Makakatawag kung sila inaapi doon sa overseas Filipino workers. Do you know that I have had to put money in DFA, and that's why they love me there, because ngayon lang sila nakatikim na makakapag-aral sila ng Arabic. Wala tayong mga Arabic speakers, konti lang. At para makabasa ng mga diaryo ng Arabo, yung tinatawag nating Chinese, ilan lang ang magagaling na speakers, and they have to rely on hiring local people there just so that they will be able to hear some of the things that they need to know. But going back to OFW, iba na yung nakafocus at madali nating malaman kung sino ang may diferensya kaysa bisaklat. Meron sa labor, meron sa foreign affairs, merong OWA, may POEA, at yan rin makikita natin na hindi masama na magkaroon kayo ng, sabi nga ni Senator Herrera, ng SSAs dahil yung pronunciation niya iba-iba. But the point is, paano kayo nag-iipon kayo dyan tapos pag bumalik kayo, wala kayo naipon. Yung SSS dapat, katulad ng GSIS, ang gobyerno malaki ang pondong binibigay, Pag nag-retire ka, at least medyo decent na yung makukuha mo retirement. Pagka SSS ka, kung di mo papalakihin yan, maliit lang, kaparanggot lang ang makukuha mo. Yan ay mapag-aaralan ng isang departamento na tumitingin dyan at dapat kinakausap yung mga ibang mga empleyado doon na dapat mag-contribution yung employer doon para sa SSS contribution dito sa Manila. Otherwise, they cover them in their own host country.
This is last two notes here that was forwarded to me earlier, a few days ago. It talks about the statement of Senator Soto
Yes.
about wanting to ban the social media companies on trolls, on messages from trolls and troll farms. Does the government really have this authority? Can it legally do it?
I don't even know if they can do it, no? Ang may control dyan, Facebook. And this is the more disturbing part. So nagtanong, alam po ba ninyo, ang Facebook, sinara nila yung mga trolls sa China?
Correct.
Hindi ba tayo natatakot? Hindi ba intruso niyan? Tahimik na tahimik tayo. The silence is deafening. I condemn China for interfering. Right now, uso yan. Russia interferes in America. America interferes with them. Eh tayo walang laban. Tayo ang punching bag. Tapos, yung mga trolls na you can be sued. There's cybercrime when you start maligning somebody. Eh dapat meron nakikita. Hindi yung mga troll, halata naman yung isang boses na eh. Ngayon, kinuha pa nila yung number 1 troll ni Duterte nung kumampanya siya. Babayaran pa ng Department of Finance. Ano ba naman yan? Di ba? Nagpapatunay yan na may gagawin kayong kalokohan. Ako, sabi nga ni Mark Anthony, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. No, lend me your eyes and your mind. Take a look. You can see what's going to happen next. At natatawa na lang tayo. Pinagkukwento natin sa chat groups. Do something. Do something. Lead, follow, or get out of the way.
So your answer is the greedy government cannot do anything. Does not have the authority to stop.
For example, they can go to Facebook. Other countries ban Facebook. If you don't clean it up, we'll ban you here.
Will you do it?
I will. Nakikita ko, dinalason yung ginagamit na propaganda sa ating bansa. Ginagawa ng China yan. Ginagawa, bakit? Wala ba tayong magagawa dyan? Of course, medyo maliit na bayan tayo. I'm not going to be pushed around. In order to get respect, you have to show that you are going to plan your move. That's a very extreme move, what I just said. But if Facebook allows the Filipino people to be victims of fake news all the time, and they don't do anything about it, Facebook is a business. It's an advertising agency that accepts advertising. It lives on its customers. I'm glad that Facebook at least exposed that the Chinese have trolls in China sending messages to our country. I'm not happy that the government, the silence of the government is deafening.
Well, okay. Last question before I call on. Before I call on the people on the floor. Just a question from all the advanced questions I got, basically. Yes. It has to do with what you did in the Department of Tourism in the WOW program, because the caller, the questioner just said, tanong niya, WOW was successful because for some reason there was security for tourists.
Yes.
How was that done? Because that's a very major issue. You can have a nice campaign kung walang security. Wala yung mga riding in tandem na pumapatay ng tourist. Baka pumatay ng tourist. How would you ensure that doesn't happen?
Because every time something happened, I was always alert to things that harm the tourists. When an Israeli was stabbed, the Israeli ambassador thanked me because he was stabbed in Boracay. And I was there and I told him we'll take care of it. And she was a lady ambassador. She was profuse. Kailangan pinapakita mo you care. At dapat pinapakita mo, domestic and foreign. Pagbaba mo sa airport, kukuha ka ng taxi nung araw. Sasabihin ng taxi, pagka-tourist, how much? Put your flag down. No. How much? It's up to you. Kasi labing 500, no. Malaki yan pupunta mo. 1,000 yan. Pupunta ka sa Marikina, pa-flag down mo, bumaba ka na lang. Ibababa ka doon sa madilim na lugar. pinatigil ko yan. Nilagyan ko, bayan ko, sagot ko yung mga taxi, may body number, at pwede mag-complain yung mga tao pagka nagluloko. At nilagyan namin ng hotline. Ewan ko kung pinagpatuloy yan. Hindi na ata pinagpatuloy. Yan ang sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. Dapat talaga, meron pupuntahan. This is the era of information technology. Even the farmers have cell phones. Dapat, katulad sa India, sinasabihin ng Department of Agriculture yung mga farmers, mura dito ang fertilizer. Makakautang kayo rito. May bagyong darating. Dapat huwag na kayo magtanim dyan. Palagi kayo nababa. Lumipat na kayo dyan. Dito kayo lumipat. Ba't tayo magtatanim kung nasisira palagi? At dapat makakatawag sila. Sira yung irrigation dito. Ba't hindi nyo nagagawa? Kung ang Red Cross nagagawa yung irrigation at saka yung tinamaan ng lupa, papakita ko sa inyo. At napagod na ata itong staff ko. Ayan, papakita ko sa inyo. Yung agri-mapping, dapat magawa yan para alam natin kung saan ilalagay. Pwede ba ilagay mo na muna yan? Ito, halimbawa, nakita ko sa Nueva saka sa Cagayan. Recently yung Cagayan. Ito yung bagyo tumama sa kanila. Dialysis ang lumalabas, boss. Ayan. Ito, ayan. Nakalagay ngayon, land irrigation. Ayan, nakita ko from the air. Kung ba ako kinausap ko yung mayor, tagal na ito nangyari ito. Pinadala ko yung mga payloader. Yung Red Cross may payloader. Anong ginawa namin? Binuksan namin yung irrigation. Tapos, kinalay kayo ng payloader yung lupa. Inalis yung mga putik. Yan, 3 buwan ginawa yan. At pagkatapos, corny na sila. Meron na silang mais ngayon. Meron na silang bigas na natatanim. Ganun rin sa Cagayan, about a year ago, tinambangan tayo ng Ulysses, naputikan lahat ang mga lupa, nawala yung mga peanut farmers, hirap na hirap, yung mga corn farmers na wala, pinadala ko rin yung payloader ng Red Cross dyan. At ngayon, they're peanut growers again. Kumikita na naman sila. They're seeded corn and peanuts in the municipality of Enrile, Cagayan. May tumutok ba sa ulo ko na gawin mo yon? Mariling kita pag hindi mo gagawin? Wala. Hindi mo nang pumilit. Basta nakita ko lang, kung ikaw leader, dapat titignan mo kagad. Kung may gamit ka, padala mo na kagad para hindi mahirapan ang tao. You alleviate human suffering. And you give them the dignity, not by giving them handouts, but you help them get their farms back. Sira ang irrigation, 400,000 hectares of irrigation that can produce 2.5 million metric tons of rice. Pagkatapos ano nangyari? Hanggang ngayon hindi ginagawa. Noong 2006 sinasabi ko na yan, 2009 sinasabi ko na yan. Wala. So dapat kung gagawin yan at 60,000 per, you do the math. 60,000 times 400,000, ilan yun? That's about 24 billion or 2.4 billion. Do the math ka? 60,000 times 400,000 hectares is 25 billion. O di unti-unti, this year, 100,000. Next year, another 100,000. Then we will have a little bit of food security.
Okay. Now, I'll go to the floor. We have 3 people who have raised their hands. I'll call on the first from Las Piñas, Lito Pardo. Lito, are you unmuted? Go ahead.
Hi, Lito.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Senator Gordon. Everything you said are matched by your action. Your words are matched by your action. And I salute you for that, Senator.
Thank you very much.
I have this observation regarding to our electoral process, regarding COMELEC. With the present composition of our COMELEC, it appears that Mindanao has the monopoly of electoral prowess.
They have 5 commissioners.
5 out of our 6 commissioners are from Mindanao, and 3 are from Davao. Having said that, I would like to follow up a question that was raised. Why is it hard for us, for government, to prosecute erring COMELEC commissioners, even if the errors are blatant? Is it because they can only be removed from office through impeachment?
That's one reason. You're right. But it is hard because we believe it is hard. We don't do anything about it. You can demonstrate. You can sue them. You can make it hard for them in the media. You can do anything. But, teka muna, malaki ang kalaban ko eh. Baka hindi pwede yan eh. Sasabihin pa naman, pwede pero dipindi. Ano mangyayari sa atin dyan? Hindi kailangan talaga dapat maninindigan tayo. Kung isa ka lang, talo ka. Kung dalawa kayo, medyo malakas ka na. At dapat marami tayo. Kung gusto, maraming paraan. Kung ayaw, maraming dahilan.
Thank you, Senator.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
We go to Miss Elmore Santos. Okay,
Yes,
Elmore.
hello po. Good afternoon, Senator. Good afternoon po to everyone. I'm Amor po from CNN Philippines.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, would like to get an update po sana on the Moderna vaccines that were purchased by the Philippine Red Cross. Sir, you said earlier po that around 1,500 doses will be arriving this July. Any update po, sir, doon sa delivery? And kailan po dadating yung remaining 200,000 doses?
Una sabi nila, June 23. Ngayon, June 30. I hope it's not maybe tomorrow, maybe this year, maybe next year. Hindi naman tama yun. But certainly, I'm sure it's gonna arrive. I have no reason to believe that's not gonna arrive. You know why we ordered? We ordered, put out our own money because hindi dumadating yung mga vaccines. Nakitulong na kami. If I were to be in charge of this, I will have the private sector buy the medicine under medical supervision. Then they can hire their own doctors like we do. Then we can vaccinate a lot faster. Our objective is to vaccinate as fast as we can. And if people can afford to pay, we can recover our costs, we do that. We don't charge extra. We just make sure that we're able to vaccinate a lot more people. And I promise you, pag dumating yan, puno na nga eh. Naghihintay na lahat eh. Yung 100,000 people na kukuha niyan, na ang unang sinabi ko dapat, when you take a vaccine from Moderna sa amin, you must provide for one less fortunate person. Blood, tawag ko dyan eh, vaccine Samaritan. Eh, mayroong nag-intriga agad at sabi, bakit ito namin binibenta? Hindi kami nagbebenta. Cost recovery ang tawag dyan. At the batas, we are allowed to recoup our investment to help the country. Nakalagay yan dyan. I hope I answered your question. You may call me. I gave my number. I'll give my number again. 0920-952-7232. I think you have my number.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do po. Sir, sorry, i-clarify ko lang, may bagong date po ba for the arrival ng 1,500 doses?
This weekend. This weekend.
Oh, this Saturday, sir. Tomorrow, tama, tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I love you tomorrow.
Sir, tomorrow po. Sir, tomorrow po yung arrival ng 1,500 doses.
Sinasabi sa akin ang staff ko dito. And I trust them.
Okay, so tomorrow po. Sir, we'd also like to get your reaction. Yun pong Palace nag-announce sila yesterday na i-expand po yung vaccination, yung priority vaccination program to 10 more cities. Kasama po dun yung Iloilo, Bacolod. I know Iloilo po na-tackle din ng Senate.
Oro, Cotabato, yan. Dami yan.
Yes, sir. Sir, as the chairman of Philippine Red Cross, what's your reaction to this strategy of the government na nung una NCR plus muna, NCR plus 8 and now plus 10, yun pong priority vaccination areas. Is this a good strategy or do you have other suggestions po to ramp up our inoculation drive?
I'm sorry, I think on the surface we have no choice because wala tayong vaccines. At tumatalon tayo kung saan may sunog. Tatakbo tayo doon may sunog. Yan ang strategy ngayon. Bumaba na ang rate dito sa Maynila at tumaas doon sa ibang probinsya. So gusto natin wag nang kumalat yan pero dapat pinoproteksyonan mahigpit tayo sa Manila. Dahil pagka lumaki dito, malaki problema dahil ang daming tao dito. But we have to protect Iloilo, kailangan niya ng mga kababayan natin doon. Negros, kailangan niyan. Zamboanga, kaya may molecular laboratory ang Red Cross sa Pasig sa Iloilo, meron tayong molecular laboratory sa Bacolod, meron tayo sa Cagayan de Oro, meron tayo sa Surigao, at meron tayo sa Cebu, At so covered yung mga yan. And we have saliva test also there, which is easier because we can just pick up the saliva, and we now have 104 motorcycles being distributed, and they can give it to our molecular laboratories in the areas aforesaid. We have molecular laboratories in Isabela, and we're going to soon have the 14th. We have the picture. Baka sabihin nyo na bobola ako dito. We have the picture of where they are, and the 14th in Cotabato. We finally got land there, so we're now building. I'm sure you have the picture there of the Cotabato molecular lab and building that we're building, and that is going to happen.
Thank you, sir. Sir, second to the last question na lang po. On your political plans, sir, are there any updates po dun sa decision niyo po to run or not to run for president in the 2022 elections? And sir, are you in talks po with other political parties, or are you planning to run as an independent candidate again? And what are the considerations po? What are the factors that you are considering in your decision po?
Well, that's the last question. Talaga yan tama. What are the factors? Number one, I'm afraid of my wife.
Okay.
I have to get the permission of my wife and my children if I'm going to run. Sabi ng asawa ko sa akin, ang tagal-tagal na natin mag-asawa, wala ka nang ginawa kundi mag-serve sa public. Ako rin nag-serve na. Hindi ba sapat yun? Ang sagot ko, hindi pa. Dahil kailangan natin baguhin ang bansa. Bakit ikaw? If not us, who? Pero niloloko ko lang siya, tinutukunan lang. But you know, I always plan for the worst. Para sa ganon, kung kailangan, atakbo. Do I have a political party? Yes. It's a registered political party, Bagong Bayan. We have so many members in that party. Hindi nga lang mga sikat, hindi mga politician, because I'd like to have it that way. Kasi wala naman tayong tutustos na pera, pero hindi naman ako takot na walang pera. Bakit? Nanalo ba si Villar? Marami siyang pera. Sinanding ko ko, marami rin pera. Reportahan ko pa, natalo rin. Marami mayayaman na tumakbo. Bakit? Porque ba popular ka, mananalo ka? Natalo si Fernando po ni Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Kahit anong sabihin mo, natalo. Kung malakas siya, dapat malaki lamang, hindi siya nadaya. So we have to slay those myths. Myths yan eh. Yung sinasabi natin, hindi pa tayo nagsisimula. Mahirap na. Mahirap patalo, mahirap lumaban dyan. Malalaki ang kalaban, may pera. Hindi ako takot doon. I make fear my friend. I make the future the friend of the country. We have to allow ourselves to believe in our country. Sabi ng isang kaibigan ko, dapat malaman ng tao, believe kami sa iyo. No. Kailangan ko ang tao believe sa kanilang sarili na kung gusto na lang gawin, lahat tayo sabay-sabay. Gagawin.
Sir, is Bagong Bayan eyeing, or is it in talks with other political parties for any possible coalition?
Yes, I have talks with the Sambayanan, and I said I have to consult everyone. And at that time, they were not really thinking that we can join because there are certain personalities that violate their own code. Ayoko na magsalita doon. Ayoko naman manira. Di ko galing manira dyan. Pero certainly, kailangan talaga, di rin ako naniniwala na porque maraming kandidato mananalo yung presidente o yung kandidato ng administrasyon. Hindi ako naniniwala dyan. Kung si Marcos, saksakan na ng daming pera, saksakan na ng daming makinarya. Lahat KBL, natalo pa rin. So, please, help the country decide on its own. Not on the basis of mga news items na, handa na itong dalawang ito. Ito, handa na ito. Walang tatalo dyan. Wait, teka muna. Kung ganun pala, alam nyo na pala, huwag na tayo mag-eleksyon. Kung susunod tayo doon sa survey, ay yun na lang survey, mas mura pa. Kung naniniwala kayo dyan, yung survey, okay na. Ako naniniwala doon sa Ateneo basketball team. Tinalo yung Korea. Una sila sabi, hindi raw tayo mananalo. Tumabla pa sa China. Malay mo, baka manalo tayo sa Serbia. Bari rin mangyari yan. Sasabihin niyo, mahirap yan, malalaki yung mga yan. Even si Tab Baldwin, sabi, ang lalaki raw nung 4 raw tayo sa Dominican Republic na 4 ng Ans Kwame. By the way, Ans Kwame became a citizen because of my belief that he really loves this country and that he's going to be an asset not only in basketball but as a good citizen. And di ako nagkamali. Di ako nagkamali.
Sir,
Tumawag ka agad sa akin. Salamat. Nung manalo sila.
Sir, sorry, last na po, balikan ko lang po. You said you are in negotiations po with One Sambayan. Does that mean po na pwede po kayong maging standard bearer nung slate po ng opposition?
In natin negotiations, sabi nila, medyo nagtampo ako ng konti, nasaktan ako ng konti. Although respected ka, kaklase ko si Tony Carpio. Si Brother Luis Tro, I really like him. He's a good man. And the others, no? I respect Secretary Del Rosario. Pero, wag naman akong iimbitahan tapos sasabihin, nag-a-apply ka, magpapa-interview ka. Sinabi ko doon, hindi ako nagpapa-interview. I just want to know kung anong gagawin ninyo. Baka magsama tayo. Pwede yan. I was not in any negotiation whatsoever. And I told them we're not yet ready to do so. Maaga pa. Pero dapat makita natin kung ano ang papanalo natin na anong gagawin natin para mananalo tayo.
So now,
the options are not, all the options are open.
so nasa options pa rin po on the table.
Yeah. Meron pa isang tumawag sa akin, mag-usap raw kami ni Vice President, mag-usap raw kami ni nung ibang kandidato. Sabi ko, talk is cheap, we can always talk. But we really have to make sure that, you really have to work hard. Sa akin, there's no substitute for working hard. Whether you're running the government or running a campaign, you have to work hard. And I'll tell you, when I ran last time, I knew I was going to lose. I was just sick and tired na ito na naman. Marami nagsasabi dyan ng araw, yung mga slogans, naniniwala tayo. Ako, para sa mahirap. O, sasabihin gano'n, baka magalit sa akin yung kaibigan ko sa Erap. Ano nangyari sa atin, di ba? Dapat pag nangako ka ng gano'n, dapat matutuloy. Di ba, sabi rin nung sabi rin ng mga tayo sa matuwid na daan. Naniniwala ko. Kami nag-iimbestiga ng matuwid na daan nun eh. Dahil iniimbestiga kung bakit tumili ko yung karsada. Pag kami gagawa ng construction, tumili ko yung karsada para madaanan yung subdivision. Pero ang ibig sabihin, kailangan magsabi tayo ng totoo eh. Hindi naman pwedeng, porque malaki, talo ka na. Hindi ako naniniwala sa ganun. Sorry. Ano ba? Bakit? Yung apat ba, kung tatakbo, mananalo ba lahat yun? Isa lang ang mananalo. Lahat matatalo. O, at least tumabang ka. Ulitin ko yung palagi ko sinasabi, usong basketball ngayon, sabi ni Michael Jordan, you miss 100% of the shots you never took. Kung di ka nag-attempt, wala na. Hindi ka mananalo talaga.
Okay, there's a question here from ayaw niyo mag-unmute but she sent a question sa chat. Katrina Pasqua. Sabi niya, good morning to all. I just have a few simple questions for Senator Dick. First, I'm always amazed on the cleanliness, healthy environment, less crime, strict policies around Subic, Olongapo, especially with the simple traffic rules. How can we apply the strict policies in Metro Manila? Do we really have to wait for you to become the president of the Philippines to be applied?
Ginagawa rin naman sa ibang bayan yan eh. In fact, I respect those who humbly went there like si Bayani Fernando. Ang sabi niya nun, nag-aaral ako dito, ang magaling itong ginawa ni Mayor Gordon dito, ni Chairman Gordon. You know, I'm very good. I mean, people come here, sa Red Cross from Nepal, nagpapatulo sa amin kung anong ginagawa namin sa Red Cross dito, and we share. Now, magagawa ba sa ibang bayan? Yes. Ang importante is you have to have a leader that respects the people. A leader who will say, eto, pakinggan niyo ito. You have to have shared vision, shared values, shared sacrifices, shared triumphs. Apat yun, ha? Vision, values, sacrifice, triumph. Shared lahat yan. Hindi yung isa lang ang magtatrabaho. Di ba kayo nakakalita pag magsisimula tayo, mauna ka na muna. Ayaw natin magpakauna. Dapat magpakauna ka, tumaya ka. Ang nangyayari, parang may pusta ang tao. Ang nakataya dito, ang kinabukasan natin lahat. Right na yan eh. Ilang beses sa sinabi yan, nakatira yung eleksyon, kinabukasan ng bayan. But are you treating it seriously? Do you really believe yourself that your vote matters? Dapat respetuhin nyo yung boto nyo. Hindi sayang ang boto nyo dahil hindi mo naman alam kung sino mananalo eh. Kala nyo ba mananalo si Biden kay Trump? Natalo si Trump. anong issue. Ganun dito. The main issue in this campaign is how COVID was handled. 1. 2. How are we going to recover dito sa problema natin sa economy? And then lahat ng programa, peace and order, yung mga paano natin papalaki ang mga tao na maliliit, yun ang kailangan natin. Yan ang kailangan natin. Sapagkat ayoko magpatawa pero yun ang function ni Dick. Topax.
Alam mo, madami mga sa chat
May track
question.
record, yun ang function ko, di ba? Track record ko.
Yeah, I guess one of the question here basically says na madaming nagawa pero paano ko ba maipalawak ang kaalaman na to sa mga kasamahan ko?
Sinasabi, marami na doon. Lahat na sinasabi sa akin, universally, ang dami mo nagawa eh. Pero, anong pero? Bakit di sabihin? Sasama ako para dumami tayo. Oh. Baka lumakas ang loob ko, tumakbo na ako. Pwede ba yon?
So, nag-iimbita ka ba, Dick, na sumali sa bagong bayan?
Nasusin niyo yan.
Ha?
Paglaban nyo yung prinsipyo ninyo.
Hmm.
Walk your talk. Don't be afraid.
Hmm.
Do what you think is right. Look at your children and say, I'm going to support this man because I believe in him and I'm going to give him my heart and soul in this campaign so that he wins, and if he wins, you have a great future, my son. How can you have a country na player ng FEU, 21 years old, pinatay ng NPA? Pagmamalaki pa nila. How can you have a 16-year-old shot by the police habang nakatali? How can you have a woman, 52 years old, binaril ng police? Just so a few months ago, hindi lahat ng police ganyan, yung pala siya pa papatay. How can you have an Huesca shooting people in Tarlac, the old one and the old lady and the son? My gosh, we're just, gawking and talking about it. I can tell you, I did something about kung pinatay sa, tanongin niya yung pamilya doon. I had somebody go there to help them. But importante, lahat tayo tumulong. Tingnan nyo lang yung bayarihan ng araw, pag nilipat yung kapitbahay mo, lahat pinapasan yung bahay kubo. Lahat ng tao, ililipat tapos magkakainan sila, malapit ang mga tao, makakilala lahat. Nawala na sa atin ba yan? Yan ang kakulangan natin. Dick Gordon will always challenge people to do what they're supposed to do. And you know what leadership is? Leadership is making sure that you uplift the standard of behavior of your people. The standard of living, not only the standard of living, but the standard of the will to change the country. We need to change this country. You know it. I know it. Topax Kulako knows it. Everybody knows it. But then when you start saying, okay, show me what you got, kid. Have you got it in you? If you got it in you, start believing, then you can share it with others.
Magandang theme song yung sa journey niya. Believe it.
Hindi ko alam yan. Alam ko yung luma yung kay Elvis Presley. Kaya very common. In Journey, ikaw longo po yun ha. Lead singer doon.
Si Pine, Ariel Pineda.
Favorite niya.
Oh, we've run out of questions here. It's been almost 2.5 hours that we've been chatting with Dick Gordon. Are there any last questions from the floor? I don't see any hands raised now. None? From our classmates? Dinky, ikaw madaming tanong dito. Unmute yourself. Dinky. Ayan.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Dick from Davao City. Nasagot mo na lahat ng mga tanong namin dito. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinky.
Si Junoy, madaming lawyer groups na inimbita dito. And would you make a few statements or questions before we close the session? Dinky? Junoy?
Yes, Dick, salamat sa pagpaliwanag mo na sa iyong mga programa at kami po naniniwala sa iyong kakayahan. I'd like to inform everyone, maybe you're forgetting, people are forgetting that you are also a lawyer. I think they think you're just a senator, but more a lawyer senator. So I think you will do right with this country. I think it's about time we do something for our country. Each and everyone moves for you. I think in the end, you will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Junoy. Thank you. With your help and everybody's help, this country will succeed. We cannot do it by ourselves. We have to do it and spread the word.
Bottom line,
Really change country.
bottom line, volunteerism. Do your part. This is the message I'm hearing from the. You want change? You can do it yourself with the right leader.
Papax, if you're closing, I just would like to invite our friends, if they have time, just take a look at the board.
Sure.
I did this soliloquy when I did the Light and Sound Museum in Intramuros, where we started from the beginning before the Spanish arrived and they bumped into us. We've been trading with the Chinese, we've been trading with other nations, and we had done a lot of things before the Spanish arrived. The problem with our country is that when the Spanish arrived, napaso sila kay Lapu-Lapu. So when they came back, talagang kinuhan tayo, pinahirapan tayo in the sense na walang kumpiyansa ang Pilipino sa sarili. That is why they built Intramuros. And that is why it started the walling of your mind. You talk about Dick Gordon. So kung makita niya yung monumento dyan sa Subic, mga volunteer, dumaan sa Pinatubo tapos tumulong sa Subic. Tagal ko nang ginawa yan. May piring sila sa pamilya, pero yung anak lang ang masaya because they're coming out of darkness like this. Our national anthem before. They are children of the sun returning. When I did Intramuros, I did a building there where you go on, and as you go up, you look at the 300 rebellions in magkaisa. And then Rizal came on the top of the building, and then he wrote Noli and Fili and dared the Spanish to go after him. Indeed, they did. And then it ends with the execution of Rizal after incarcerated. And then it ends with the revolution, and you go out on top of the walls, you exit and you see the flag, and nandun yung top of the walls. Read with me, if you please. Rizal died in Bagumbayan. Before him, Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora. And before them, Sulaiman. Bagumbayan, the new country. Rizal never saw it, but he meant for us to see it and to build it. And if it is to be, it must be up to us. Ginawa ng mga Kastila, na ginawa yung Bagumbayan kung saan tumakas sila Sulaiman. Doon sa tabi ng applyan na ngayon ay Luneta, tinawag nilang Bagumbayan. Siyempre, wala na yung lumang bayan nila. Ang ginawa ng mga sumakop sa atin, in-execute nila lahat, sila Gomez, Burgos, Zamora, at yung mga lumalaban sa kanila sa lupa ng Bagumbayan na tinatawag nating Luneta. Meron pa akong suspicion, kaya tinawag na Luneta yan, sabagat parang sinasabi, lunatics ang mga Pilipino na nag-aasa na magkakaroon tayo ng bagong bayan. To continue. And if it is to be, it must be up to us. Ito naman ang hamon. But have we changed our attitudes about ourselves and our country? Nagbago na ba tayo? Or are we still mired in our envies and insecurities? Pag may umaasenso, nilalagari natin ang paa. Nag-i-stop tayo sa likod. Pagka may yung mga yan, naiingit ka agad. Bagong bayan is not a place. It is an attitude. It is us. We must define and draw a picture of what we must be. We must learn from Rizal. As we step out of these halls, we are now above the walls of oppression of our colonial past. The walls of victimization no longer exist. No more walls to block our vision of our great future. It is time to become horizon chasers once again. To have faith in ourselves and in our fellow Filipinos. It is time for action, change, and solidarity.
Manta! Cellphone daw ba ni Mata?
Yun, magising na yung bata. Let us be worthy of Rizal and our new country. Let us create a society that is enabled, ennobled, and free. By the way, that is my philosophy. To enable and ennoble and forever make us free with choices. Because we are poor if we have no choices. Let us build our bagong bayan around our hearts, around our souls. God bless the Philippines. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Can you unshare so we can go back to the screen? Maraming salamat, Dick, for taking time and sharing your views, values, and vision for the Filipinos. To all our guests who attended, ladies and gentlemen, maraming salamat po sa inyo. To the Facebook joiners of Peaceabilities, thank you for joining us. Again, in behalf of the Ateneo 5761-65 group, thank you, maraming salamat, and we look forward to a better Philippines with a trusted new leader. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Classmates, you can stay in for